Chapter 3595. It was difficult to distinguish how many rules were hidden in this thought. The most important thing was time. A long and complicated time. If the past to the present was a river, then what Long Chen had now was the entire river. There were bits and pieces of the past, all the power, and the light and shadow of the future, uncertain points and uncertain scenes. These were the anger in Long Chen's heart. Time was cold, but when the rules and power of massacre were integrated into it, it gave the rules a kind of life, a kind of will. As a result, time gained another kind of life. The blue rules of time dyed the blood-red color of massacre red. But that was not all. Between time and slaughter, karma was also involved. The cause and effect of this life, and the relationship between the chaotic cave ancestor and the Pangu ancestor. Karma was retribution, and the net of heaven was wide. Karma was a strange law between heaven and earth. Long Chen could not be considered to have completely mastered karma, but he could use the law of karma to enhance the power of the law to the greatest extent. The last one was naturally life. Life contained these three kinds of rules. It was not a kind of power but a kind of spirit. The spirit of life was Long Chen's desire to survive at this moment. The spirit of life made the rules undergo a transformation. In the supreme vast chaotic whole, Long Chen's four-world origins had long been gradually corroded by the deadly shaman essence. Their vitality was dim, as if they would be destroyed at any time. The four great statues, happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy, were all the chaos whole ancestors, but in fact, perhaps only joy and joy were real. The chaos whole ancestor heaved a sigh of relief. He had pushed himself to the limit and was finally about to kill Long Chen. At this point, it was impossible for Long Chen to survive. I have finally gotten rid of this great trouble for the myriad worlds. The chaos whole ancestor was extremely proud. In the myriad world skull, Long Chen was completely immersed in the fog. Outside the myriad world skull, it was quiet. Right at this moment, Long Chen abruptly opened his eyes amidst the deadly shaman essence. His eyes flashed with the deepest and most primitive laws of the myriad worlds, the most fundamental great Tao of the myriad worlds. Not dead yet. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor sensed his condition and quickly suppressed him. The origin of the six worlds fused perfectly, and the myriad world skull trembled, releasing an even more majestic force. Boom, boom, boom. He suppressed Long Chen again and again. Countless streams of deadly power gushed into Long Chen's body like sharp blades. It was like madness. Buzz. However, it was at this moment that Long Chen rose to his feet in the middle of the sea of darkness. His four world essences floated around him, and even though they were growing dim, they continued to support each other and fight back against the great blue chaos whole. But Long Chen was different now. The law in his heart gradually took shape. Now, the world of the great black hole ancestor was disappearing in his eyes. His own world was replacing everything. What he saw was light, justice, and a colorful world. The power in his heart continued to grow as the world origins of the four world essences began to fuse with each other. In total, there were 16 world origins swirling around Long Chen. It was a riot of colors. Among them, time was the most important. The four world origins turned into four kinds of dragons, hovering around Long Chen, dispersing the deadly power of the sorcerer essence. At this moment, Long Chen, who originally had no hope of resisting, rose in shock. Everything happened at this moment. The law instantly became complete, even perfect. The four world essences circling around Long Chen suddenly felt as if they were connected together. The core was the chain of time. It was entwined with slaughter and karma, embellishing one of the rings with life as well as a weapon. The long sword was on the left, and karma was on the right. Life was in the middle, and time was the bridge connecting them. Now, Long Chen's hands were in the middle of the time chain. Great Apocalypse Time. This was the name Long Chen gave himself. Great Apocalypse. Life and death, karma and time were all in it. Under this name, the four laws were unified into a whole. It was as if they were formed by a law. It was the power of putting one's life on the line. Holding the four divine weapons in his hands, Long Chen let out a dragon roar that shook heaven and earth in the myriad world skull. The entire myriad world skull trembled in the dragon's roar. There was a dead silence. Now, over Pangu continent was a pitch-black skull 10 times the size of Pangu continent. It glowed with a dark light, and in its eyes, nostrils, mouth and ears, one could see a gray mist rolling like a dark ocean. The great shaman ancestor sat cross-legged at the top of the skull, his hands covering the Bai Hui acupoint on the skull, his face solemn. There had been no movement inside the skull. Since it had been enlarged countless times and condensed around Long Chen, it had been motionless. But the atmosphere of gloom and terror had been pervading. Everyone was staring at the myriad world skull. As time passed, whether it was the ordinary creator ancestor gods or the fourth era's primordial ancestor gods, they were all extremely nervous. The myriad world skull was sealed, and Long Chen might die in the next moment. Lingxi and the others were in the Tower of Time. The most nervous ones here were the ancestral gods of the fourth era. They were struggling between fighting and melancholy all the time. If Long Chen was still alive, they would say that we violated the rules, which would infuriate the great shaman ancestor. After all, Long Chen is in his hands. If we destroy it first, he won't be limited to 2 moves. But if we don't act now, he will definitely die, and he will have no hope at all. Even the ancestral gods of the fourth era began to argue. Who says he will have no hope at all? Who says he will definitely die? I will never do that. I still believe in him. In fact, the ancestral war ancestor was not so firm. After all, Long Chen, who was in the myriad world skull, hadn't moved at all. Normally, Long Chen would have been dead by now. The most miserable of them all was none other than Elder God Pangu. He had thought to himself over and over again that there was no need for Long Chen to take such a risk for him at all. And yet he had done so. It wasn't as complicated as some of the elder gods believed it to be. All he wanted was to step forward and rescue his friends and supporters. The rolling mist in the myriad world skull had gradually weakened. On the huge skull, the great shaman ancestor revealed a relaxed and happy smile as if a huge stone had been lifted from his heart. Long Chen is dead. The great shaman ancestor stood up, opened his arms, and cheered. The silence was suffocating. Good, very good. Hearing this news, the Emperor of Mortal Life and the other ancestral gods of the fourth era burst into laughter. This was not out of their expectation. It would be strange if the great shaman ancestor couldn't deal with Long Chen at the risk of his life. From now on, the myriad worlds will be at peace. No one will disturb the ancestral god alliance. The myriad worlds will truly enter a golden age. The bright gold ancestor and the devilish silver ancestor quickly blended into the myriad worlds. Now that they were in the victorious camp, they began to celebrate. Long Chen. The last hope in ancestor god Pangu's heart was shattered at this moment. His mind was blank as he knelt in the endless starry sky. Long Chen was dead, and the devilish silver ancestor couldn't be bothered with him. He had already removed the shackles on him, but ancestor god Pangu didn't leave. Instead, he was in a daze. This was perhaps the biggest blow he had ever suffered. The hearts of the 10 fourth era progenitor gods shuddered. Don't panic. Pulling a hair is enough to affect the whole body. If he died, it would have triggered a huge change in the draconic sacrificial continent and even the myriad worlds. However, the draconic sacrificial continent is still safe and sound. This means that Long Chen isn't dead. The great shaman ancestor's mind turned, and he said something calming. We have to act. If we don't fight now, we won't have any hope, Destiny Star ancestor said. The 10 ancestral gods didn't say anything else. 9 of them went to intercept the 8 ancestral gods, while 1 went to rescue ancestor god Pangu. Ancestor god Pangu had just regained his freedom. The primordial war ancestor shouldered this mission, and he secretly called out to Pangu. Finally, the great shaman ancestor charged at the great shaman ancestor. Only by stopping the great shaman ancestor would there be a chance for Long Chen to survive. Indeed, this was a very good opportunity. When the great shaman ancestor announced that Long Chen was dead, the 8 ancestral gods were so engrossed in their celebration that they forgot their vigilance. Only then would they have the chance to act quickly. He's not dead. Run. Pangu finally found a glimmer of hope, and he hurriedly fled. The moment the battle erupted, the myriad world skull suddenly trembled violently, and a section of it exploded, shooting out several beams of resplendent light. Chapter 3596. Among those rays of light, there were blood red, black, and gold, as well as a mysterious blue color. The mysterious blue color was the largest part of them all. Among the large colors, there were more than 10 smaller colors mixed in with the large colors. They were the power from the origin of the living world. When combined together, it was the great apocalypse time that Long Chen had unleashed in the face of death. Time was destroyed. Perhaps it was the power that had been building up over the course of several great epochs, but now it exploded out. It was like a multicolored dragon, carrying Long Chen with domineering power as it tore through the grand vastness black hole and the myriad world skull. Although it was only a small part of the great blue chaotic hole, the seal of the myriad world skull had been broken by Long Chen. No matter how small the breach was, the entire rule would collapse. Swoosh! The beam of light flashed. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen's figure flashed past the broken part of the myriad world skull. He had regained his freedom and naturally entered the death world first. When he came out of the death world, he was already beside the chaos ancestor gods. Long Chen. These 10 universe-enlightened ancestral gods were just about to attack when something like this had occurred. They'd already spread out, and they were alarmed by this and hurriedly converged towards Long Chen. They only heaved sighs of relief when they firmly protected Long Chen at the center. Of course, they were extremely excited at this moment. "You're not dead." Everyone was wild with joy. Ancestor god Pangu had escaped from the other party's control and happened to come here. Now that he saw Long Chen, he was so excited that tears streamed down his face. That's right, Long Chen had used the Great Apocalypse time to break the Great Blue Chaotic Hole. It was already an impossible miracle for him to break the fatal move of the ancestor god of the Fourth Era. Although he had only broken a little bit of the rule and did not completely destroy it, it was impossible for him to cause any harm to the Great Blue Chaotic Hole ancestor god. Even so, the shock that Long Chen had created at this moment surpassed that of when he defeated ancestor god Hong Jun. It was unprecedented. How is this possible? Even though this was what the Chaos Ancestor gods and the others had desired in their hearts, they still felt as though they were dreaming when it actually happened. It was as though they had ascended from hell to heaven. Of course, Long Chen wasn't in a good state right now. And very bad. They had been in the Tai Tsong chaotic hole for too long, so the origin sources of the four realms had almost been corroded to the point of destruction. Even though Long Chen had the Tai Chi life body, it would take him several years to completely recover from today's injuries. Thankfully, they had enough time in the Tower of Time. This Tai Tsong chaotic hole was definitely countless times more powerful than the Qi Yu demon ancestors' 10,000 fiendish Qi. No matter what, now that Long Chen had come out of the Great Blue Chaotic Hole, he had gradually expelled the deadly magic power that had entered his body from the origin of this world. At least, his life was saved. However, before he fully recovered, he basically had no fighting capacity. "Everyone, don't worry. I'm fine. I'll recover in a few days." A few days, this was the time of the 10,000 worlds. Very good, very good. The 10 ancestor gods felt relieved as they revealed smiles on their faces. Many ancestor gods of the 10,000 worlds had already gathered in the surroundings. The Fifth Era's ancestor gods were especially fast. At this moment, most of them had arrived and understood what had happened. When they learned about the details of Long Chen's participation in the battle, many of the Fifth Era's ancestor gods who had doubted Long Chen were relieved. At this moment, when they saw that Long Chen had made a breakthrough, perhaps all of their doubts had dissipated. Even though the death of the Qi Yu demon ancestor was still an unsolved mystery, they were still willing to believe in Long Chen. After all, he was still a hot-blooded man in front of the Fourth Era's ancestor gods. What? The 9 Fourth Era's ancestor gods felt as though they had fallen from heaven to hell in extreme excitement. The Great Blue Chaotic Hole ancestor had just announced that Long Chen had perished. Unexpectedly, Long Chen had escaped from his control in the next instant. How is this possible? Of course, the Great Blue Chaotic Hole ancestor himself was the most shocked. He deeply understood the extent of his laws and knew how much stronger he was compared to Long Chen. He was extremely confident that he could kill Long Chen. Impossible! Impossible! Long Chen, you must die! The Great Blue Chaotic Hole ancestor was usually very calm, but at this moment, he was fighting against Long Chen. After suffering such a blow, his face became ferocious and he made a fool of himself in front of the many ancestor gods. Calm down, Chaotic Hole. We lost. The Great Blue Chaotic Hole ancestor shook his head and said helplessly, "I know, but, obviously, no matter how we evaluate him, we will still underestimate him. This person is so terrifying that he has probably never appeared in the 10,000 worlds. He is indeed worthy of being the one who obtained the inheritance of the 10 great ancestor dragons." The Great Blue Chaotic Hole ancestor was actually a little regretful. Back then, both sides had thrown olive branches to him, But because he was a little jealous of Long Chen, he walked to the great blue chaotic hole ancestor's side. Now that he had gone against him several times, it was obvious that Long Chen and the others would not trust him anymore. The great blue chaotic hole ancestor sneered, "Very well. No matter what, we have lost again today. In this case we have a good idea. He can protect ancestor god Pangu, but he can't protect all the ancestor gods in the 10,000 worlds. Since he has such a righteous heart, let him perform. Let's see how many he can save and how many moves he can take from us." The great blue chaotic hole ancestor said, "We can't do it now. We have finally obtained the trust of the 10,000 worlds ancestor gods. If we do this, the reputation of the 9 of us will be gone. In this battle, we will become immoral, untrustworthy, and unjust people, which will create Long Chen." The great blue chaotic hole ancestor said angrily, "Why do we need the support of those low-level ancestor gods? The 10,000 worlds are already under the control of the 4th era's ancestor gods. Even the 5th era's ancestor gods are useless. The key to victory is the battle of the 4th era's ancestor gods. The winner takes all. As long as we kill Long Chen and destroy them, the history of the 10,000 worlds will be written by us. Who cares about reputation and support? You have seen what Long Chen is capable of today. If we let you all hesitate, we will die. In my opinion, we should capture the hostages and kill until Long Chen dies." Stop. Of course, outsiders could not hear their internal quarrel. In the end, Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha said, "Should we bear with it first, or should we kill Long Chen with a ferocious attitude, by any means, and regardless of the consequences, as Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha said? This is a serious matter that concerns our futures. I suggest that we calm down first and go back to discuss it." After the ferocious expression, the great blue chaotic hole ancestor became a little dispirited. He said, "We have already failed today, so let's not waste any more time. As for what to do, we can discuss it in detail. The other 10 won't let us do anything rash at this time." "That's right. Let's go back and discuss it. There will naturally be a better way." "There is always a way out," said the bright gold ancestor. The 9 ancestor gods reached a consensus. No matter how angry Emperor Ancestor Kitagarbha was, there was nothing he could do at this time. Without a word, they turned and left, disappearing into the starry sky in the blink of an eye. They did not give any explanation for what had happened today. This showed that they had indeed begun to disregard the opinions of the ancestor gods. If it had reached the level that Emperor Ancestor Kitagarbha had mentioned, then they were undeniably terrifying. After they left, the ancestor gods discussed among themselves. At this time, Panga stepped forward and said in a loud voice, "About what happened these days, I think I still have to stand up and say something. As everyone knows, Qiyu Fiend Ancestor and Long Chen have a grudge. Last time, when Qiyu Fiend Ancestor came to Panga Continent to stir up trouble, I swear on my life and all the barbarians that in order to keep you away from Long Chen, so that the great blue chaotic hole ancestor and the others would have an excuse to kill Long Chen, Qiyu Fiend Ancestor Kitagarbha was willing to commit suicide. It was unbelievable, and I never thought that one of my words was false." Chapter 3597. Everything that happened today, in addition to Ancestor God Pangu's words, was clearly not an act. At the beginning, many ancestor gods did not believe the truth of demon ancestor Chio's death and suspected Long Chen. But now that they were friends again, and so many things had happened, everyone had their own conclusions. The 9 4th era ancestor gods actually dared to use ancestor god Panga's life to threaten Long Chen, and Long Chen risked his life to fight for his friend's life. The character of both sides can be seen at a glance. It seems that Long Chen really has no cruel heart. The truly cruel ones are the Chaos Hole Ancestor and the others. Looks like the death of the demon ancestor Qiyu was really a conspiracy, a setup. For the sake of killing Long Chen, they really went all out. As the elder gods discussed the matter, they learned the truth. Quite a few of the 5th era's elder gods apologized to Long Chen. After all, they had misunderstood Long Chen. In the future, they would follow Long Chen unswervingly to protect the myriad worlds. Everyone, because of my existence, the infinite worlds have fallen into such a chaotic situation. I am very sorry. However, I have a more important mission. My life does not belong to me alone. Many people need me. I still have many missions to fulfill. So I cannot die. As long as I do not die, I believe that the 9 fourth-era ancestor gods will not let this matter rest. Today, I will tell everyone about my death. Fortunately, they will not shed all pretense of cordiality and use the lives of the infinite world's ancestor gods and all living beings to threaten me. But in the future, if they lose all hope, no one can predict what they will do. Perhaps they will really go crazy, and many of them will become ancestor god Pangu. At this point, everyone was actually a little afraid. They could feel the ferocity of the 9 fourth-era ancestor gods when they left. Long Chen continued, so, I hope that if all of you encounter such a thing, you'll definitely contact me and the 10 universe-enlightened ancestral gods as soon as possible. If they do that, then I can't guarantee that I'll be able to save everyone. But if I surpass them one day, then I'll definitely make them pay the price for their atrocious deeds. I'm different from them. They're afraid of me, but I've never treated them as my opponents. I've said it before, the sky-devouring clan that destroyed the myriad of worlds and all the ancestor gods before the epoch won't truly disappear. Maybe they're just watching us fight in the corner. These existences that destroyed the myriad of worlds are our true enemies. Internal strife is the most meaningless thing. I hope everyone can understand that the myriad of worlds are still in an abyss of suffering. What we need the most right now is unity. Today was an opportunity. Long Chen wanted to unite as many elder gods as possible so that they could have a common goal. All right. For a moment, it was as though he had truly become the ruler of the myriad of worlds. Most of the ancestor gods who had doubted him changed their minds. Those who had already supported him naturally supported him even more. After today, not only would Long Chen's reputation not decrease, but he would also receive unprecedented support because of today's events. Other than the destruction ancestor gods, many creation ancestor gods would also join Long Chen's camp to protect the myriad of worlds. In the end, the only ones he had to deal with were the 9 fourth-era ancestor gods. We'll keep an eye on them. You're heavily injured today, so go back and recuperate first. Don't leave any loose ends behind. All right. Having finally escaped this calamity, Long Chen also felt as though a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Back in the draconic sacrificial continent, his wife, daughter, brothers, mother, and all the other supreme mystical dragons were waiting for him. Long Chen was their pillar of support at this moment. I'm back. Looking at all the important people here, looking at this huge and prosperous world, and the trillions of lives here, Long Chen deeply understood how important his own survival was. They were all living in Long Chen's body. Once Long Chen perished, they would perish as well. Hugs. They couldn't calm down for a long time. Warmth had become eternal at this moment. Today's events did not frighten Long Chen, nor would it make him give up. Instead, it made him understand that as long as there was a chance, he must fight to the end. The myriad of worlds still needed one last battle. All my life, I have fought for the myriad of worlds and my home. As long as the heavens live, I will not perish. Everyone's eyes were focused on Pangu continent. The battle between Long Chen and chaotic Whole Patriarch had spread throughout the myriad of worlds, and for a moment, Long Chen was like the sun at high noon. Even the weakest child in the myriad of worlds knew of his prowess. He was already on an equal footing with the fourth-era ancestor gods, if not stronger. While Pangu continent was bustling, Mount Fiend God Bujo was quiet. It was empty. The ancestral gods who had occupied this place had left one after another. Mouths of fiend gods appeared in various locations on Mount Fiend God Bujo. The former battlefields of king and emperor fiend gods had long since disappeared, and the divine emperors and divine venerables who controlled these battlefields had disappeared due to the changes in the myriad of worlds over the years. But at this moment, an ordinary black-clothed man came out of one of the mouths. His black robe was very wide, but his body was very small. With this wide robe, it seemed very empty. Most of the fabric was empty, and it was fluttering in the starry sky. If one did not look closely, it would look like a piece of torn cloth dancing in the air. Chapter 3598. Chaos Whole Wizard Ancestor. When the wizard ancestor was about to return to the Chaos Whole Wizard world, the black-robed man called out to him from afar. Who? The wizard ancestor was furious because of what had happened to Long Chen. The sudden shout made the wizard ancestor's heart clench. He was sure that the one calling his name was definitely a terrifying existence, or at least an expert of the same level. Could it be the common people emperor ancestor? He was more agitated today and probably didn't care about anything else. He wanted to use the lives of the myriad world ancestor gods to force Long Chen to die. Today, I didn't kill Long Chen, so he's unhappy with me. It was normal for him to think that way. Mortal people emperor ancestor. Humph, even if I let you attack, you won't be able to kill Long Chen. Since the other party had called out to him, he couldn't let him be a coward. The wizard ancestor didn't say anything else and headed in the direction of the voice. Who is it? The chaos whole wizard world had become very small after traveling for hundreds of thousands of miles. It's me. At this time, a mysterious black-robed man appeared behind the great wizard ancestor. His body was very thin and small, just like a child with long arms and legs. His black robe was very wide, which basically covered the parts of his body that could be blocked. What was more terrifying was that the wizard ancestor realized that he couldn't see through the mysteries of the black robe at all. He couldn't see what was inside. This black robe is a part of his body. There's no distinction between them. He isn't the mortal people emperor ancestor. That's right, he wasn't the mortal people emperor ancestor. The most terrifying thing was that a deep fear was born in the depths of his memory. This was something he had never felt before. That fear existed in the memories that had disappeared. Looking at the black-robed man with green eyes, his heart actually trembled. He was the fourth era's ancestor god, the strongest ancestor god in the myriad of worlds. This situation naturally made him extremely unhappy. Who are you? The wizard ancestor lowered his voice and asked coldly. Either the fourth era's ancestor god was playing tricks, but the wizard ancestor didn't believe that those terrifying existences were sealed and couldn't come out. Me. I'm you. The black-robed man suddenly replied. As he replied, his voice and body changed. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into the appearance of the great wizard ancestor. There was almost no difference between this transformation and Long Chen's law of transformation. The shaman ancestor of the Chaos Cave was shocked. At first, he hadn't sensed the slightest aura of world origin energy from this person. However, when he transformed into himself, even his power changed. He was like a fourth epic ancestral god. It was an exact copy of himself. Who exactly are you? Don't blame me for being impolite if you continue to act mysterious. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor said angrily. The might of the fourth era's ancestral god could spread to countless star regions. I've said it before. I'm you, and we have a common goal. Moreover, I need your help. The black-robed man who had transformed into the black hole wizard ancestor said with a faint smile. The great wizard ancestor smiled and said, I won't help someone with an unknown identity. Since you dared to impersonate me, you must pay the price. In fact, this was the result of the conflict between his pride and fear. The person in front of him made him feel very uneasy, so he was eager to get rid of him. There's no room for negotiation. You and I will be very good friends. The black-robed man was still smiling strangely. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor had an urge to call for help. Among them, divine ancestor Kitagawa was very close to him. If he called for help, he would be able to arrive within 3 breaths. However, he didn't choose to do so. He was a proud person. Although the person in front of him was pretending to be mysterious, he still needed to see if he had the real ability. If it was just a fake, he would inevitably become a laughingstock if he made a big scene. Chaotic origin hand. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor just wanted to see what the mysterious person in front of him was capable of. The attack that he had just used against Long Chen was born. Under the control of the majestic power of the origin of the 6 worlds, the infinite worlds turned into a cave in his hand. In the depths of the cave, a huge gray arm suddenly stretched out. It seemed to be the hand of the infinite worlds. It grabbed at the black-robed man mercilessly. Die! The chaotic whole wizard ancestor shouted angrily. The fear in his bones made him want to crush this person into pieces. In the face of such a rule, the mysterious man laughed and said, I told you that I am you. What's the point of using my rule to attack me? Even as he spoke, he unleashed an attack. The power of the Chaos Cavern ancestral shaman ancestor was born, and something similar to the origin of the 6 worlds swirled around him. Just as the Chaos Cavern ancestral shaman hand was about to descend, the natural laws were completely shaken. Chaotic origin hand. It turned out to be the exact same rule. The mysterious man twisted the world and condensed the primordial chaos hand in the depths of the cave. The palm was even larger than the primordial chaos ancestor's primordial chaos hand, and it was even swifter. Now, the primordial chaos hand rushed out of the dark cave and instantly collided with the primordial chaos hand. The two huge chaotic origin hands collided in the dark cave. It was as if two Hercules were wrestling. What? This was the most shocking moment since the chaotic whole wizard ancestor arrived. He never thought that the other party would really use his rule. The most terrifying thing was that the other party used it better and more skillfully than him. On this day, he had experienced two huge shocks. The first was when Long Chen broke the great firmament chaotic hole, and the second was when the black-robed man used his rule. It was precisely because of this that his mind was shaken. Why did you use my rule? One had to know that the ancestor gods were the source of the laws. All the laws in the myriad worlds originated from the ancestor gods. On the path of witchcraft, the great black hole ancestor was the ancestor. What he comprehended, what he controlled, was something that no one else could know. Yet, at that very moment, there was someone else who had actually utilized his own laws. He was even more terrifying than the chaotic whole wizard ancestor. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor's heart was filled with intense fear and murderous intent. If he didn't kill the other party, he might not be able to live in peace for the rest of his life. If the other party existed, what was the point of him existing? The two chaotic origin hands wrestled. Destroy! The huge palm collided in the cave, attacked, and shattered. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor clenched his teeth and fought desperately. But the other party's chaotic origin hands were beyond his imagination. The chaotic cave ancestor's primal chaos palm was easily suppressed by the chaotic cave ancestor's primal chaos palm despite being destroyed several times. So what if you know the chaotic origin hands? I want your life. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor roared. When the chaotic origin hand shattered, the ferocious myriad world skull reappeared in front of him. He clenched the myriad world skull for the second time today, and this time, he used all his strength. Great firmament chaotic whole. This law could only be used after coming into contact with the myriad world skull. Therefore, the great wizard ancestor was certain that the other party would not have such a law. After all, there was only one world source. The great firmament chaotic whole wizard ancestor turned the myriad world skull into countless crystal particles. Now that the myriad worlds had regained their clarity, the black-robed man was exposed. In just an instant, the myriad world skull enveloped the mysterious man. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor was on the huge myriad world skull. Haha, you're dead. Standing on the myriad world skull, the chaotic whole wizard ancestor couldn't help but be ecstatic. Perhaps he was too afraid of the other party, so he was so excited after killing him. Great firmament chaotic whole. At this moment, the chaotic whole wizard ancestor, who was still controlling the great firmament chaotic whole wizard ancestor, suddenly fell into a rule. Ha! He was stunned. Wasn't this the environment inside the great firmament chaotic whole wizard ancestor? However, he was indeed above the myriad world skull. In fact, it could be seen from afar that the two myriad world skulls were superimposed on each other. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor's myriad world skull was even bigger, at least half the size. Of course, the two weren't particularly similar. One of them was the chaotic whole wizard ancestor's world source, while the other was purely condensed from his power. Chapter 3599. The Great Heaven Chaotic Hole. The Great Heaven Chaotic Hole had almost caused Long Chen to be on the verge of death. He had only managed to escape with the Great Destruction Time at the last moment, but now there were two of them. Impossible! Without the myriad world skull, how can he use the Great Heaven Chaotic Hole? It was the first time that the Great Heaven Chaotic Hole had been trapped by his own deadly witch essence. He looked up and saw the four huge stone statues of happiness, anger, sorrow, and happiness. He had never thought that he would be attacked by the deadly witch essence one day. The endless deadly witch essence and the four huge stone statues of happiness, anger, sorrow, and happiness were simply a nightmare for the Great Heaven Chaotic Hole wizard ancestor. At this moment, he was completely terrified and had completely sunk into a sea of panic. His killing intent from before had basically disappeared. Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha, save me! In the Great Heaven Chaotic Hole, the Great Heaven Chaotic Hole wizard ancestor let out a deafening roar. His vast voice echoed in the myriad world skull, but it seemed that it could not be transmitted out. You want to find a helper? Unfortunately, I've already expected it. I've completely frozen this space and time. It's as if we've entered another world. You won't be able to find a helper then. The four statues spoke at the same time. The strange voices and the content of their words made the great heaven chaotic whole wizard ancestor's hair stand on end. Impossible. The great heaven chaotic whole wizard ancestor said sadly. However, he knew very well that he could not contact the great heaven chaotic whole wizard ancestor Kitagaba now. The other ancestral gods of the Fourth Era had also lost contact with him. He had really fallen into a lonely environment. The deadly witch essence surged and surrounded him like endless waves, washing over his body. Since you want to control me, I'll die with you. They had all trapped each other with the great heaven chaotic whole wizard ancestor, who was attacking to his heart's content. The great heaven chaotic whole wizard ancestor had no other choice. Even though he was too afraid, he forcibly suppressed it and mobilized the power of the origins of the six worlds to fight the other party head-on. In this way, the same law was much more lethal than when the great heaven chaotic whole wizard ancestor used it against Long Chen. No matter who you are, die. In the real myriad world skull, the black-robed man was trapped here. Inside, his wizard essence was also surging, but even so, his expression didn't change at all. The deadly shaman essence seeped into his body, but it was obvious that it couldn't cause any harm to him. On the other hand, the chaotic whole shaman ancestor's face contorted as he struggled and cursed. Who are you? The voice of the great wizard ancestor of the chaotic whole had already become mournful. I am you. The answer he got was still the same. You. The chaotic cave ancestor was truly afraid. Now that he had no one to help him, he was firmly suppressed by this mysterious existence, and even his life was in danger. The opponent's attack and suppression were too terrifying. With such a powerful opponent, the Fourth Era's primordial ancestor god on Long Chen's side definitely doesn't exist. He isn't a Fourth Era's primordial ancestor god. Moreover, he was using his own rules. Thinking of this, the Chaos Whole ancestral Magus had a plan in his heart. I admit defeat. I'm willing to cooperate with you. What kind of cooperation do you want? The chaotic whole ancestral Magus struggled and roared. It's too late. Now, I don't want to cooperate. I think it'll be easier to replace you, the other party said coldly. Replace. A word that made the chaotic whole ancestral Magus hair stand on end. Don't force me. The chaotic whole ancestral Magus went crazy. It can be considered as me devouring you as well. The reason why you guys returned to the myriad worlds was because I spat you guys out. Every word of this made the chaotic whole ancestral Magus tremble. It turned out that he was the culprit of all this. Their lost memories were all devoured by this black-robed man, and the reason they returned to the myriad worlds was because this black-robed man spat them out. Everything about the ancestral gods was under this person's control. He might be one of the rulers of the sky-devouring clan. He might be on an equal footing with the chaotic sky-devouring dragon. The chaotic whole ancestral Magus was deeply aware of how terrifying this person was. He even forgot to resist in the face of the fatal sorcerer essence. They call me the divine demon holy lord, but you can also call me the divine demon giant beast. In the darkness, the voice constantly echoed in the chaotic whole ancestral Magus' ears. The chaotic whole ancestral Magus had now collapsed under the double pressure of the spirit and the fatal sorcerer essence. Do you know why I chose you this time? The divine demon holy lord asked. I don't know. That's because we are related. Before the epoch, I was born in your chaotic whole sorcerer realm. Back then, I grew step by step and was almost killed by you. Later, I was protected, and after I succeeded, I swallowed you. This chaotic whole sorcerer realm is my birthplace. The divine demon holy lord's words were filled with nostalgia. It was not easy for him to grow, or rather, it was not easy for all the sky-devouring clan members to grow. Do you know why you know so much? The divine demon holy lord asked again. I don't know. The chaotic whole ancestral Magus seemed to recall the past, and he was the one who allowed a destroyer to be born. That's because you're about to return to my stomach and become part of the source of my power. The divine demon holy lord chuckled. You. Just as he finished speaking, the huge black screen continued to shrink. Under the fatal sorcerer essence, the chaotic whole ancestral Magus turned into dust, and the myriad world skull also continued to shrink and was devoured by the flesh and blood in the chaotic whole ancestral Magus body. When the huge black screen shrank into the shape of a human, the chaotic whole ancestral magus had disappeared. Everything was over, and what appeared was still the appearance of the black-robed man. Very good. The black-robed man shook his body and turned into the chaotic whole ancestral magus. This chaotic whole ancestral magus was no different from the previous chaotic whole ancestral magus. After all, the divine demon Holy Lord had already turned him into a part of himself. What a pitiful worm! The divine demon Holy Lord looked at his own appearance and laughed. After familiarizing himself with this body, he returned to the chaotic whole sorcerer realm. I have to think of a way to kill Long Chen. This guy is growing too fast. Fortunately, I arrived at the last moment. Otherwise, it would have been really troublesome. What a monster! No one knew what had happened in the chaotic whole sorcerer realm. Even divine ancestor Kitagarbha had not received any news. Chapter 3600. Long Chen. The origin dragon servants and the others would return every once in a while. Long Chen welcomed them at the dragon sacrificial continent. On the vast dragon sacrificial continent, billions of divine dragons soared. The primordial dragon spirit turned into mist and rose. The eternal god realm walked on the dragon sacrificial continent. Looking at this vast world, the origin dragon servants and the others would sigh with emotion every time they returned. Great, it's much better than before. Every time we return after a while, we can see the dragon sacrificial continent expanding, solidifying, and reaching a higher level. It's becoming more and more similar to the dragon sacrificial continent before the epoch. Of course, they were very satisfied. Restoring the prosperity before the epoch is just around the corner. Every dragon servant had a satisfied smile on their faces. They were the seniors that Long Chen respected the most. However, Long Qinglan was no longer by their side. Fortunately, he had already killed the devouring dragon servant and avenged him. There's no other news about the first ancestral dragon. There's also no news about the origin dragon souls and world origin of the 4 ancestral dragons. They happened to pass by the dragon sacrificial continent on their return this time. After resting for a while, they would immediately continue on their journey. The dragon servants understood the ancestral dragons the best. In terms of ability to find inheritances, even Long Chen was inferior to them. Moreover, they were basically not ancestral gods. Even if they weren't very powerful. Coincidentally, they were relatively hidden and not many people would pay attention to them. There's no hurry. Take your time. Right now, inheritances and world origin were the 2 directions that Long Chen was strong in. He could either quickly become the other 4 ancestral dragons or increase world origin. Increasing world origin wasn't something that could be done overnight. It required 10,000 years of training. World origin and origin dragon souls could only rely on them. Those ancestral gods of the 4th era are forcing you to hide in the dragon sacrificial continent. We can't not be anxious, Long Chen, the origin dragon servant said solemnly. Long Chen understood them. They had spent their entire lives for the ancestral dragons, for the dragon sacrificial continent, and for their home. Why don't I find a few ancestral gods of the 5th era and let them protect you? The myriad worlds aren't too peaceful now. Long Chen was still a little worried about their safety. There's no need for that. There are people following us. Firstly, I don't trust them. Secondly, it'll be easier for us to expose ourselves and be discovered by the 4th era's primordial ancestor god. When that happens, it won't be easy for us to search for your inheritance. Therefore, let's stick to our original plan. In the infinite worlds, there aren't any ancestor gods that have noticed us yet. After all, they were all humans, and humans could be found all over the world. In the end, the Fate Dragon Attendant, also known as the Taisu God, said, "Recently, we have found some clues about the chaotic heavenly Fate Dragon. However, we can't be sure. We have to go and investigate. If we find the specific location, we will let you come. Now that the ancestor gods are fighting, it is best for you to stay here. Even if you want to go, you have to find a few 4th era ancestor gods to protect you." All right. Long Chen nodded. After resting for a few days, they continued to set off. Long Chen returned to the Tower of Time and continued his cultivation. The current situation facing all the worlds made him feel a bit urgent. Big brother. Mo Xiaolang was here too. He frowned and said, "Recently, I have been feeling very uneasy. You have to be very careful. Long Chen said that's right. The chaotic whole ancestor and the others failed to use ancestor god Pangu as a hostage. Now that I am getting stronger and stronger, they will get crazier and crazier. For now, we can only hope that the chaos ancestor god and the others can control them. Mo Xiaolang said, we just don't know where the sky swallowing clan is sealed, and if there are any movements. This no one knows. 10 days later. Eastern Star Region. Border Region. This place wasn't that far from the passage of time. In this location, there was a pale white star. It was extremely ancient and withered. The reason why it was pale white was because there was a type of rock covering it, all of them strangely shaped. The dragon servants were scattered all over this star. They had been here for a few days, and their footprints covered the entire star. They had searched everywhere, not letting even a grain of sand go. Search and search. This was what they had always been doing. Ever since Long Chen became the ancestral dragon, they had been searching and repeating this boring process. This was their mission. Although it was boring, as long as there was a little bit of discovery, it was enough to make them ecstatic. There's no reaction at all. The origin dragon servant collected everyone's reports and frowned. I thought it was on this star. I didn't expect to find it after such a thorough search. Where is it? The dragon servants looked at each other. They didn't have an answer. However, they weren't tired. They were just worried about the situation of all the worlds and Long Chen. As long as Long Chen surpassed the 4th era's ancestor god, they would be able to relax. They were still in a state where they could be killed at any time. Previously, I felt that this place was special. There were traces of the Destiny ancestral dragon. But after a detailed search, we didn't find anything. We didn't even let a grain of sand go. The black and white dragon servant sighed. Since there's no result, let's leave. The origin dragon servant said. She felt that they couldn't waste any more time here. It was time to search for the next possible location. Everyone else had the same thought. Wait. The god of Tai Su, the fate dragon attendant, shook his head and bit his lips. No matter what, this is the most likely place for the recent period of time. There must be something we missed. I feel that there is a clue left behind by the chaotic Yuan fate dragon. Hence, I think it would be better to search this place one last time. After all, if we really missed something, it would delay things greatly. Everyone thought for a moment and finally agreed to this proposal. This is the most likely place for destiny. We will listen to you. The origin dragon servant said. She was the Chaos Origin Fate Dragon's dragon servant. Because of this, they carried out one last search. Everyone split up and searched the huge planet. They were highly focused, paying attention to every possible point. Although it was tough, the faith in their hearts supported them. They wanted to revive the myriad worlds. This was the mission they were born with, and none of them had any complaints about it. It could be said that Long Chen's achievements today were mostly due to their efforts. The Time Dragon servant was Long Chen's father. They were Long Chen's uncles and aunts. They were his closest relatives. It's a pity. In the end, everyone gathered again. Regrettably, they didn't find anything. Depressing. What's the problem? Why haven't we found anything? The Fate Dragon servant thought hard but couldn't find an answer. She was close to going crazy. Her face was pale and she was in a whirlpool. She had a strong idea in her mind, but she couldn't find the details. How about this? We will leave for a while and remember this place. We will come back after some time. After we change our thinking, we might find something new. The origin dragon servant suggested. Okay. Boss, we'll listen to you. They held hands and prepared to leave. The group of people headed towards the exit of the planet. But at this moment, an elder god appeared before them. His skin was dark gray, and he was relatively muscular. His level was relatively high, and his vast aura instantly swept out, instantly suppressing the dragon attendants. In fact, the surrounding space for billions of kilometers seemed to freeze and tremble because of him. Chaos Whole Ancestor. The origin dragon servant naturally recognized him. He just didn't expect to meet him here. He was calm, but when he thought about the reason for the Chaos Whole Ancestor's appearance here, he knew that things were going to get troublesome. He must have noticed their tracks and came here specifically to kill Long Chen. The origin dragon servant thought for a moment. It's definitely not a coincidence for him to appear here. He must have come specifically for us, to kill Long Chen. If I tell Long Chen about this, he will definitely come here. That way, the Chaos Hole ancestor will have a chance. But, if I don't tell him, he'll eventually threaten Long Chen after taking us hostage. My biggest mistake today was underestimating their determination to kill Long Chen. I didn't expect them to investigate us. If I had known this would happen, I would have listened to Long Chen's suggestion. The 5th era's ancestral god can still hold him off for a while. The Origin Dragon's servant regretted his decision. He thought that the Chaos Hole ancestor wouldn't come to deal with them personally. If I don't tell Long Chen, I will be in even more trouble if I get kidnapped. I shouldn't force myself at this time. The Origin Dragon's servant knew this very well. He thought quickly. In fact, the moment he saw the Chaos Hole ancestor, he told Long Chen, "We've encountered the Chaos Hole ancestor. Bring the other 4th era's ancestral gods and save us." Chapter 36:01. Long Chen heard the call of the Origin Dragon servants in the Tower of Time. Chaotic Hole Wizard Ancestor. Their urgent tone and the name of Chaotic Hole Wizard Ancestor were enough to wake Long Chen up from his cultivation. Shit. This guy must be targeting the Origin Dragon servants. He knows that the Origin Dragon servants are more important to me. Therefore, he will kidnap them to threaten my life. Previously, Long Chen was worried. However, after hearing the words of the Origin Dragon servants, he felt that the war wouldn't affect the Origin Dragon servants. Firstly, the 4th era's ancestral gods wouldn't pay attention to the low-level deities or ancestral gods like the Origin Dragon servants. Secondly, they were well hidden. After all, they were wandering in realms. Furthermore, few people knew that they were searching for the ancestral dragon's inheritance for Long Chen. As there was still a lot of time in the Tower of Time, Long Chen immediately thought about the solution. Of course, he had to pass the message to the 10th era's ancestral gods. He had to tell them to gather in the Death Realm as soon as possible. If there was only the Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor, he might be able to put up a fight. I hope his target is me and he won't hurt the Origin Dragon servants. This was Long Chen's biggest wish. After all, the Origin Dragon servants were too fragile for the Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor. If the Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor cared about his status and reputation, he wouldn't make things difficult for the Origin Dragon servants. In an instant, Long Chen arrived at the Death Realm. At the same time, the 4th era's ancestral gods who had just received the message also arrived at the Death Realm at almost the same time. They were worried that Long Chen would block the Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor. Soon, Long Chen found the Death Realm Dragon Gate that was closest to the Origin Dragon servants. As they were in a remote location, there was a bit of distance between them. Without saying anything, the 11 of them rushed out of the Death Realm Dragon Gate. Now, Long Chen's heart was pounding. He had a bad premonition. I wonder why the Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor is blocking our way. The Origin Dragon servants gathered together and looked at the 4th era's ancestral god cautiously. Of course I'm here to take your lives. The Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor pointed at himself with a weird smile. The Origin Dragon servants and the others were shocked. Why? We're all weaklings. We've never offended the Great Wizard ancestor in any way. Could it be that the Great Wizard ancestor mistook us for someone else? The Origin Dragon attendants said anxiously. For some reason, they felt suffocated. They had seen the Black Hole Witch ancestor in the past, but it hadn't been as terrifying as it was today. Oh, they're coming. All of a sudden, the Black Hole ancestor looked into the distance. That was the direction of the Death Realm Dragon Gate. Long Chen had just opened the Death Realm Dragon Gate, so he would be able to come over immediately. Based on this, the Origin Dragon servant knew that the Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor knew them and what they were doing. Knowing our relationship with Chen he will definitely use us to threaten Chen The Origin Dragon servant had seen ancestor god Pangu, so of course he didn't want such a thing to happen. However, the problem was that the Great Hole Sorcerer ancestor was right in front of them. There was no way for them to leave. However, at this time, the Great Wizard ancestor smiled and opened his mouth. Come, souls. I'll give you a new place to belong. The Chaotic Hole Shaman ancestor's mouth was opened to an impossible degree. The inside of the mouth was scarlet red. It was a crowded, terrifying, and bloody world. The squirming intestines and 5 internal organs seemed to be revealed. It was extremely terrifying. Buzz! All the dragon attendants felt a terrifying shock to their souls. At that moment, there was a deafening roar and their vision went blank. He's not the great wizard ancestor. The origin dragon servant's eyes widened. He was extremely shocked. He had witnessed the destructive war before the epic, so the terrifying existence in front of him was too familiar. The feeling he gave off was similar to the feeling he got from the war before the epic. He wanted to tell Long Chen about this discovery. However, he only had one origin of the world. He was billions of miles away from the existence in front of him. Under the gaze of the great wizard ancestor's emerald eyes, he couldn't move or speak. He could only watch as his ancestral soul was separated from his body and left. You're from the Sky Devourer clan. The dragon attendants realized that he wasn't the great wizard ancestor. This news caused an incomparable shock in their hearts. It wasn't the great wizard ancestor, but the Sky Devourer clan. Moreover, he didn't want to take him hostage. He really wanted to kill him. During the epic war, the dragon attendants had endured humiliation for the future of the draconic sacrificial continent. Today, they had waited for Long Chen to reach this level. But at this time, the Sky Devourer clan really appeared. Moreover, it was a terrifying Sky Devourer at the ruler level. The ancestral soul and primordial spirit were separated. There was nothing they could do. There was a total of 8 dragon attendants. There was the origin dragon attendant, the primordial dragon attendant, the Taisu god, the black and white karma dragon attendant, the curse realm guardian, the life dragon attendant, the illusion dragon attendant, and the massacre dragon attendant who looked like Long Chen. Their ancestral soul and primordial spirit were separated from their bodies and devoured by the sacred god demon lord. They couldn't resist at all and were sucked into the sacred god demon lord's mouth. He's a Sky Devourer. The Chaos Hole Sorcerer ancestor is a Sky Devourer. The origin dragon attendant and the other dragon attendants had tears of blood in their eyes as they screamed, and roared. However, be it their minds or voices, they were all sealed and couldn't transmit a single word. They roared and screamed crazily in the process. Unfortunately, it was as if they were separated from Long Chen by a huge chasm. Looking at the void-devouring world in front of them, even though they were in the state of souls, they still shed tears of blood. That was death. That was where they belonged. They had endured until now. Their hearts were trembling uncontrollably. It wasn't that they were afraid of death. From the moment the dragon sacrificial continent and the myriad worlds were destroyed, they had never been afraid. What they were most afraid of was the myriad worlds not recovering. They were afraid that Long Chen would die. They were afraid that the myriad worlds would lose all hope. They were afraid that they wouldn't be able to take revenge for the annihilation of their race. Now, it wasn't the final moment yet. Long Chen still didn't have the strength to take revenge. The dragon attendants naturally wanted to help him more. At the very least, they had to find all the ancestral dragon's legacies and hand them over to Long Chen. Only then would they be willing to go. Now, Long Chen has 9 Fourth Era's ancestral god enemies who want to destroy him. Now that the Sky Devouring clan has appeared and impersonated the chaotic cave ancestor, they must be plotting something big. Chen is in danger, but they had tears in their eyes. Their hearts were filled with unwillingness. However, death was only for an instant. In an instant, they were engulfed. All of their dreams, aspirations, and hopes turned into bubbles. They could no longer see the future of the dragon sacrificial continent. In the most unwilling moment, they struggled frantically and looked in the direction that Long Chen had come from. However, they lost consciousness forever. Every dragon attendant's heart was filled with bitterness. No matter what the future held, they could no longer see it. For this day, they had worked hard for 100 million years. For such a long time, they had endured humiliation, hatred, the death of their loved ones, and the destruction of their homes. I feel it. It's the power of hatred. After swallowing the 8 souls, the sacred Lord God Demon Lord licked his lips and smiled in satisfaction. He had come quickly and moved quickly. In just an instant, he had turned around and left. Only 8 soulless bodies were left behind. They belonged to the 8 dragon attendants. Without their ancestral souls and origin spirits, they were just empty shells. Their expressions were still filled with extreme shock, astonishment, anger, and unwillingness. This meant that they had made a major discovery before they died. However, None of this was important to Long Chen. He had never thought that things would turn out like this. He had thought that the chaotic cave ancestor would at most kidnap them. Who would have thought that he would instantly kill the 8 dragon attendants and then escape? Chapter 3602. The 8 dead souls entered the mouth of the Great Wizard Ancestor. The Great Wizard Ancestor let out an eerie smile and disappeared in the blink of an eye. His purpose for coming here was not to threaten Long Chen with the dragon servants, but to kill them. The bodies of the 8 dragon attendants were eternally resting on the pale white star. All this time, they had been searching for the ancestral dragon's inheritance for Long Chen and had given their all. Unfortunately, they could no longer accompany Long Chen in the future. What a pity! When Long Chen and the 10 Fourth Era ancestral gods came out of the Death Realm Dragon Gate, he felt that something was amiss. Ever since the Origin Dragon Servant informed him of the news, there had been no news at all. Let's go! In truth, there was no need for Long Chen to say anything. The 10 Elder Gods had already headed in that direction. Among them, roughly 3 of the 4th Era's primordial ancestral gods were left behind to protect Long Chen, while the other 7 were attacking. This was done to prevent the enemy from luring the tiger away from the mountain. How did the Great Wizard Ancestor escape? They saw the Great Wizard Ancestor's strange behavior as they chased after him. Maybe he came here by chance and left immediately after learning that we were all here, said the Great Wizard Ancestor of 6 Paths. Long Chen's dragon servants are over there. From far away, they saw the 8 dragon attendants. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor had just left their side at this moment. The 4th Era's ancestral gods were stunned when they got closer. The expressions of the 7 ancestral gods changed drastically. The Origin Soul Ancestor was among them. His ancestral soul had transformed into an Origin Soul and its core was in the world's origin, but his divine body was still composed of the Origin Soul. He was number 1 in the myriad worlds in terms of control and research of the Tao of the Soul. Naturally, he could tell with a single glance that the ancestral souls and nascent spirits of the 8 dragon attendants had been stripped from their bodies, leaving behind only empty shells. It was certain that the chaotic whole wizard ancestor had seized their divine souls. Something happened. The Origin Soul Ancestor and the others stopped beside the 8 dragon servants. We'll chase after the Chaos Whole Witch Ancestor first. The Primal Ancestor Gods didn't stop. A total of 5 Fourth Era Primal Ancestor Gods chased after them, leaving the Primal Soul Ancestor and Primordial War in front of the dragon attendants. By this time, Long Chen and the other 3 Ancestor Gods had already arrived in front of the 8 dragon attendants. Long Chen looked at the 8 dragon attendants in shock. The 8 dragon attendants still had expressions of fear, shock, anger, unwillingness, and regret. The ancestor of Original Soul said, Long Chen, even though it's hard for you to bear, I still have to tell you that they've been stripped of their ancestral souls and Yuan spirits. This is just an empty shell. If their ancestral souls and Yuan spirits are destroyed, then it means that they've sacrificed themselves. Even your Tao of Resurrection can't save a body that has lost its soul, right? The Ancestor Soul Original did not hide anything. After all, this was the truth. No matter how much Long Chen could bear it, he had to bear it. Strip, empty shell, shatter, sacrifice. These words were like heavy hammers hitting Long Chen's head one by one. It was like being struck by lightning. The dragon attendants were most likely dead. A bolt from the blue. Great hatred, great anger, and a blood feud. Everyone knew that the 8 of them were like family to Long Chen. They were his father's brothers and sisters, as well as the people who made Long Chen who he was today. The current glory of the dragon sacrificial continent was mostly due to their contributions. But now, the ancestor of Original Soul told Long Chen that they were most likely sacrificed. At this moment, the blood in Long Chen's body was boiling like a raging sea. He felt a stabbing pain in his head, especially when he saw the astonishment and unwillingness in the dragon attendant's eyes. Boundless rage, a rage that he hadn't felt in a long time, was brewing madly in his heart. His entire body seemed to be spitting out flames of anger. All the power in his body was churning crazily at this moment. His head felt like it was about to explode. He had simply reached a state of madness in an instant. Chaotic whole ancestor. An unprecedented killing intent condensed in Long Chen's heart. In his mind, the scene of the dragon attendants struggling and the ferocious expression of the chaotic whole ancestor were constantly intertwining. He actually lowered his status and killed my elders. In his anger, Long Chen bit his lips until they bled. Long Chen, listen to me. At this moment, the primordial war ancestor roared, pulling him out of his hatred. He said, I don't know what method the chaotic whole ancestor used to take away their ancestral souls and primordial spirits. Now, there is still a glimmer of hope. If we all capture the chaotic whole ancestor and force him to hand over his soul, perhaps your elders can still be saved. Listen to me, protect their bodies first. In the face of such a problem, the creator gods were always calmer than Long Chen. All right. No matter how great the hatred was, it couldn't suppress the hope of the dragon attendant's resurrection. Even if Long Chen's heart was bleeding, he knew what was more important. As for revenge, that was a matter for the future. At this moment, Long Chen already swore that he would definitely make the chaotic whole ancestor pay a heavy price for what he had done today. Chapter 3603. As soon as Long Chen arrived, he heard such arrogant words from the great wizard ancestor. He looked at the 10 ancestral gods of the Fourth Era indifferently and finally fixed his eyes on Long Chen. Long Chen, I didn't expect you to be so sad one day. That's right, I knew that they were close to you, so I killed them and crushed their souls. Your loved ones lost their lives in my hands, so what can you do? Kill me? There are trillions of lives in the great wizard realm, and if you dare kill me, they will all die. You claim to be righteous, but do you dare to do such a heinous thing? In Long Chen's eyes, the chaotic whole ancestor seemed to have changed into another person. He could say and do anything, and he was fearless even in the face of 10 Fourth Era's ancestral gods. Long Chen took a deep breath. He knew that the great wizard ancestor was stalling for time, so he said, I'll give you one last chance. Let them come back and I'll let you go immediately. As for today's enmity, I'll settle it with you in the future. In fact, Long Chen was the one who kept his word. It wasn't that he didn't want to kill the great wizard ancestor today, but he was concerned about the dragon attendants' lives. In comparison, the dragon attendants' lives were naturally 10,000 times more important. The great wizard ancestor burst into laughter. Truly, am I such a kind and cowardly person in your hearts? I'll say it one more time. I've already killed those 8 seniors of yours. Even if you were to kill me now, you would not be able to find their souls. He looked at Long Chen fearlessly. His ferocious gaze made Long Chen suspect that the great wizard ancestor was telling the truth and that the dragon attendants were gone. Imprison him. Since the great wizard ancestor was unwilling to cooperate, he could only resort to violence. This was the only way. Even if it led to a life-and-death battle between the ancestral gods of both sides, he needed to confirm the current situation of the dragon attendants. The chaotic ancestral gods also knew that since the great wizard ancestor was unwilling to cooperate, they could only take action. Under Long Chen's command, the 10 ancestral gods suddenly attacked the great wizard ancestor. It wasn't too late for him to make a move against the chaos whole ancestor. Long Chen retreated to the side, his scarlet eyes constantly flickering. The words of the great whole wizard ancestor made him somewhat uncertain. He had a feeling that the dragon attendants might really be dead. No matter how heaven-defying the chaotic whole ancestor was, he would still be suppressed if 10 existences of the same level ganged up on him. However, just as the battle began, a light flickered in the distance. In an instant, a total of 8 Fourth Era ancestral gods descended in shock. They appeared right next to the battlefield. Very good. Besieging the chaotic whole ancestor, are you trying to defeat us one by one? Long Chen, you guys are really ruthless. As soon as the 8 ancestral gods appeared, they were immediately enraged and instantly joined the battle. Clearly, they didn't know about the dragon attendants. What they saw was 10 ancestral gods from the Fourth Era besieging the chaotic cave ancestor. For a time, another chaotic battle between 19 elder gods took place. Under such circumstances, it was very difficult for Long Chen's side to gain an advantage. Just as he was about to suppress the chaos whole wizard ancestor, an external force suddenly attacked him. The chaos whole wizard ancestor seized the opportunity and slipped out of the encirclement. This is troublesome. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor had escaped for such a long time, so it was normal for him to summon them over. Now that they were evenly matched, this kind of chaotic battle was what Long Chen and the others needed to avoid the most. After all, even if all of them were defeated, It wouldn't be beneficial to Long Chen. Moreover, it was impossible to do so. The other party wasn't easy to deal with. Long Chen. He was near the battlefield and could easily be affected. The primordial war ancestor left the battlefield and came to Long Chen's side. All the fourth-era ancestral gods in front of him were fighting one-on-one. There's no other way today. Their numbers are all here. It's impossible for us to capture the chaotic whole wizard ancestor by remaining in a deadlock like this. The primordial war ancestor solemnly said while guarding Long Chen. It wasn't that Long Chen couldn't see the situation clearly. However, his heart was filled with hatred. Especially now that 90% of the dragon attendants were dead, it was obvious that he couldn't take revenge at all. If he rushed forward now, it would be even more irresponsible and suicidal. The battlefield was terrifying. The primordial war ancestor pulled Long Chen back a great distance before saying, "There are two situations now. The first is that the chaotic whole wizard ancestor has killed your elders. This is hatred that can't be redeemed, so you can only take revenge. However, for you, today isn't the day for revenge. Besides killing, we don't have a way to deal with the fourth-era ancestral gods. Therefore, we can only retreat first. When you reach our realm, you can kill them at will. The second situation is that the souls of your elders are still controlled by them. That seems even simpler. Previously, the chaotic whole wizard ancestor didn't have a guarantee of safety. Now that their people are here, if they want to discuss conditions, we can call a truce now and they will talk immediately. That way, there's still hope for your elders to come back to life." Long Chen's thoughts were quite chaotic. Thanks to the primordial war ancestor's help, he was able to understand that based on the current strength of both sides, this kind of chaotic battle was completely disadvantageous to Long Chen. "Everyone, let's retreat from the battle first." It wasn't that Long Chen had forgotten about the hatred. He just wanted to know whether the dragon servants were dead or not. The primordial ancestor god and the others were also very clear. They just knew that Long Chen was feeling terrible and couldn't bear to disappoint him. After hearing Long Chen's words, they quickly retreated from the battle. After all, they had just entered the battle, so it wasn't difficult to escape. Instantly, the 10 fourth-era ancestral gods gathered around Long Chen. "You guys are really despicable and shameless. You actually attacked the chaotic whole wizard ancestor when there were so many people. How ruthless and courageous. If we hadn't come in time, the chaotic whole wizard ancestor would have been killed by you." The mortal people's emperor ancestor was so angry that he was spitting fire. "What a good plan. You want to defeat us one by one. Why didn't we think of this before? If we had known, we would have targeted one of you and killed one of you." The 8 ancestral gods that had just arrived were all abnormally angry. Their gazes were unfriendly. As for the chaotic whole wizard ancestor, he looked like he had everything under his control. Of course, the ancestral gods on Long Chen's side would not allow them to suppress them. The primordial ancestor god sneered and said, "It seems that the chaotic whole wizard ancestor didn't tell you the truth. Of course he wouldn't tell you what dirty and shameless things he did. He attacked the 2 9th-era destruction ancestral gods and a group of gods and robbed their souls just because they had a close relationship with Long Chen and were Long Chen's elders. We are all ashamed that a 4th-era ancestral god would do such a thing. Also, let me tell you, we only attacked him because we wanted him to hand over the souls of Long Chen's elders." In a few words, he had clearly explained the matter. Of course, the 8 of them didn't know about this. "Chaotic whole wizard ancestor, is what they said true? You saw several elders of Long Chen and robbed them of their souls?" Divine Ancestor Pudu asked secretly. "That's not right. I don't remember you having such a method." The mortal people's emperor ancestor was also surprised. Under everyone's questioning, the chaotic whole wizard ancestor said, "They are just a few small fries. I didn't like them, so I killed them. Really, as long as we hold them hostage, we will have a great chance of killing Long Chen. If you do this, you will only make Long Chen hate us," said Xueqi demon ancestor. The chaotic whole wizard ancestor said coldly, "If you want to quarrel, wait until later." Now that the two sides had separated, Long Chen stepped forward and asked, "Chaotic whole wizard ancestor, now that all your people are here, can you tell me what I want for you to return their souls to me?" Now that the chaotic whole wizard ancestor's life was guaranteed, he could indeed speak. Chapter 3604. To Long Chen, these words were no different from being struck by lightning. Before the arrival of the 8 ancestor gods, the Great Wizard Ancestor could have thought that the Great Wizard Ancestor said this to stall for time and increase his bargaining chips. It could also be understood that he was waiting for his helpers to arrive before using the souls of the dragon servants to threaten Long Chen. This was a great opportunity for them. If that was the case, now that everything was ready, the Great Wizard Ancestor should have started threatening him. Long Chen was ready. He felt that this challenge would definitely be more difficult than Pengu's. However, he never expected that the Great Wizard Ancestor would say such words. This meant that there was a 95% chance that the dragon servants had really been sacrificed. There was basically no chance of survival. They had been taken care of for so many years, but they were gone in an instant. Long Chen had imagined this possibility and was mentally prepared for it, but when it really happened, it was still unbearable. The pain and anger in his heart hadn't reached such a level for many years. To be honest, even if the Great Wizard Ancestor was the ancestor god and billions of people were alive because of him, at this moment, Long Chen really had a strong desire to kill him. The ancestor god was troublesome. Are you sure? Long Chen bit his lips and stared at the Great Wizard Ancestor. His heart had long been roaring crazily, and he almost couldn't control his ancestral dragon body. The Great Wizard Ancestor couldn't help laughing. What a joke. Of course I'm sure. Otherwise, I would have taken out their souls and killed you. It's all my fault for wasting this opportunity to kill you. He also understood this point. At this time, using it to threaten Long Chen would be more effective. Now, every word and expression of the Great Wizard Ancestor was challenging Long Chen's bottom line. The Primordial War Ancestor looked at all this and sighed. He stood next to Long Chen and said, Long Chen, I think it should be like this. Remember my analysis with you. It's a pity that they left, but from a rational point of view, now is not the time for revenge. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. The moment he surpassed the Great Wizard Ancestor, that was the best moment. Right now, he was just messing around. Long Chen deeply understood this principle. He was no longer the greenhorn he used to be. He had mature considerations and knew what he had to do for the sake of the bigger picture. However, no matter what, the hatred and pain of today would firmly occupy his heart for a long time to come. I understand. When he said that, the fourth epoch's primordial ancestor gods who were worried about him felt much more at ease. They were most afraid that Long Chen would lose his rationality at this time. Chaos Whole Ancestor. Long Chen stood at the front of the team and stared at the Great Wizard Ancestor with his bloodthirsty eyes. Those were the eyes of the 4 ancestral dragons that were suppressing the Great Wizard Ancestor. This was a fated confrontation. Long Chen's hatred had reached the extreme, but the Great Wizard Ancestor looked indifferent. He smiled sloppily and ignored Long Chen's hatred. One day, I will make you regret what you did today for the rest of your life. Long Chen said these words word by word. This was his oath, and it would make him feel more comfortable. Io, that's really scary. I guess I won't be able to eat and sleep well in the future. The Great Wizard Ancestor said with a smile. His relaxed look made the other 4th epoch's primordial ancestor gods laugh. Although I don't know what this Great Wizard Ancestor is up to, it's good enough to make Long Chen feel so aggrieved. The Mortal People Emperor Ancestor thought to himself. Since there was no result today, Long Chen felt that there was no need to stay here, lest he couldn't control his anger. He turned around and returned to the Death World with the other 4th epoch's primordial ancestor gods, disappearing in front of the Great Wizard Ancestor and the others. At this location, the incomparably intense collision had finally calmed down. Long Chen. After returning to the Dragon Sacrificial Continent, all living beings in the Dragon Sacrificial Continent already knew about this matter. Long Chen didn't hide it from them. The dragon attendants had a huge reputation in this world, especially those divine dragons who had been resurrected from the curse. Before the epoch, they were the companions of the dragon attendants and had experienced that battle together. Sorrow, hatred, and anger swept the entire world. Of course, no one gave Long Chen any pressure. Everyone knew that with Long Chen's temperament, he would give an answer one day. After all, he was the one who was the most angry and hurt now. After returning, Long Chen sent the bodies of the 8 dragon attendants to the ruins of time. Only 1 year would pass in the ruins of time in 10,000 years in the myriad worlds. It was the most suitable day for them to rest. However, Long Chen didn't erect tombstones for them on the dragon's sacrificial continent. In the Tower of Time, Lingxi, Li Xuanji, and the others were all beside him. Everyone was present. Family, brothers and friends. Boss, don't be discouraged. I remember one thing. At this moment, Kitten stood out and said, "What?" The Taiji life-form dragon can regenerate the flesh and blood of the dead, which is why you can bring mortals, gods, and devils back to life. However, this isn't your most powerful ability. I've heard that the most heaven-defying in this aspect before the Great Era was still the first ancestor dragon. Rumor has it that the first ancestor dragon can even regenerate the souls of the dead. Even if their divine bodies and souls were destroyed, they would dissipate for all eternity. As long as they once existed, the first ancestor dragon could bring them back to this world. At the end of her sentence, Kitten added another sentence. If the first ancestral dragon was so powerful, how could he be defeated by the sky-devouring clan? Long Chen asked. I don't know. There must be a secret. What I want to say is, don't be discouraged. Not to mention them, even your father in the future, as long as you are more capable, you can make him return to your side. Father. The 9 elders who supported him were all dead now. The 9 dragon attendants. You're right. Long Chen had high hopes for the first ancestral dragon. Perhaps he had another goal today, and that was to make those who had died for the sake of the world's return to this world. Father. Dragon attendants. Everyone, don't worry. I know what to do. Turning back, Long Chen felt an incomparable warmth in his heart as he looked at the many concerned gazes. Indeed, the path he had to walk was difficult, but at least there were these people who cared about him. The road ahead was long, with so many followers and countless mystical dragons. Home was where he was. This road was paved with hatred and hot blood. Blazing flames appeared on Long Chen's path. Chaotic hole, what's going on? You coincidentally met Long Chen's elders, but you didn't inform us or kidnap them. Instead you killed them. Are you out of your mind? After Long Chen and the others left, the 8 Fourth Era's ancestral gods looked at the Chaotic Hole Sorcerer ancestor in confusion and anxiety. The Chaotic Hole Sorcerer ancestor was not angry. He smiled and said, "This is something you don't understand. The situation was urgent, and those guys were resisting me. Moreover, they were just a few deities. How would I know that they were so important to Long Chen? So you wasted such a great opportunity?" Xueqi Demon Ancestor asked. The Chaotic Hole Sorcerer ancestor was still smiling. You can't say that. Although I killed those insignificant people and didn't seize the opportunity to kill Long Chen, think about it. We already had ancestor god Pangu. Even if we use the same trick again, we still don't have 100% chance of killing him. Moreover, Long Chen will ensure his own safety this time. There is one more thing that you might not have thought of. After I killed those people, the degree of hatred Long Chen has for me is beyond your imagination. As long as he hates me, I will have a real chance to kill him. Just wait and see. I have a complete plan in my mind to quickly kill him. The Chaotic Hole Sorcerer ancestor was very confident. What plan? Tell us. The Mortal People Emperor ancestor was anxious. The Chaotic Hole Sorcerer ancestor shook his head and said, I can't say. You won't believe me even if I tell you. When I kill Long Chen, you will know. Brothers, let me keep you in suspense today. Everyone looked at each other. They clearly felt that the calm Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor today was very different from the irascible Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor in the past. But they never thought that even the Chaotic Hole Wizard ancestor could be impersonated. It was precisely because they didn't have such thoughts that they found it hard to suspect him. Let's go to my Chaotic Hole Sorcerer realm first. The group of people left in a grandiose manner. Long Chen thought of the place where the dragon attendants last stayed. It was a star. He felt that he should go there. Chapter 3605. Now that the myriad worlds were in danger, Long Chen naturally didn't dare to go out without permission. Especially the place where the Black Hole Wizard ancestor had been. Long Chen remembered that this was the place where the 8 dragon servants had stayed the longest recently. They had passed away here, and this place had a special meaning to Long Chen. Just like Long Qinglan's grave. But this time, perhaps Kitten's words gave Long Chen new hope. Along with his father, Long Chen didn't believe that the 9 elders he respected the most had passed away just like that. There will definitely be a day when we meet again, Long Chen thought in his heart. Now, he stood outside this pale star with the primordial war ancestor and the original soul ancestor by his side. The other 4th era's original ancestor gods were also not far away. Basically, it was impossible for them to ambush Long Chen. Standing on this pale star, for Long Chen, this was the mission that the dragon servants hadn't completed. From today onwards, he had to do 2 things. One was to cultivate and grow stronger, and the other was to search for the ancestral dragon's inheritance. He had to bear the burden that the dragon servants had worked for him in the past by himself. Both were his paths to becoming stronger. Among them, obtaining the remaining ancestral dragon's inheritance was obviously more important. This was related to Long Chen's foundation, and it was more important to prevent the ancestral dragon's world's origin from falling into the hands of others. These world's origins were the foundation that formed the dragon sacrificial continent. What secrets does this pale star have? It's not without reason that they have their eyes on this place. Even I can feel the movement of this music. It must be the mixed origin fate dragon reminding me. As someone who had directly received the inheritance, Long Chen's feeling was even stronger than the fate dragon servants. He pondered on this star for about 3 days and searched twice. He didn't even miss the smallest thing on this star. But just like the 8 dragon servants, he didn't gain much for the time being. How is this possible? Intuition told Long Chen that the Destiny World's origin was definitely related to this place. Empty yourself and change your mind. When encountering such a situation, Long Chen knew what the best solution was. Instead of continuing to be entangled, he should relax and try to look at it from another angle. Perhaps this way, he would gain something different. He casually strolled along the pale white planet. When he looked up, he saw a planet off in the distance. It was an earthy yellow planet, nothing special about it. However, Long Chen could see it clearly. Oh right. It was this scene that gave Long Chen a new idea. He rushed into the starry sky, and when he was far enough, he turned back to look at the pale white star. Gradually, an idea formed in his mind. I see. I understand now. He finally made a discovery, so he couldn't help but be ecstatic. From the very beginning, I felt that there must be something left behind by the ancestral dragon on this planet. Previously, I thought that it would be somewhere on this planet and that it would be something very well hidden, but I never expected it to be so obvious. It was because it was so obvious that the 8 dragon servants and Long Chen had a fixed way of thinking. They didn't expect the mixed Yuan fate dragon to act in the opposite way, so the dragon servants didn't change their minds and couldn't find it. This entire pale white planet is where the key lies. The problem now was how to turn this star into something useful to him. It must have the characteristics of the ancestral dragon's inheritor. If it were anyone else, if they tried to forcefully resolve it, the star would be destroyed. There would be no gain at all. Based on past experience, I should need a kind of rule, the destiny rule. Long Chen quickly found a direction. But where did the destiny rule come from? Of course it was comprehension. That depended on the person. I might have left the destiny rule for some time. Now that I picked it up again, I don't know if it will be smooth. Obviously, the Tower of Time did provide Long Chen a lot of time. But this time, if he wanted to find the destiny rule on this pale white star, he had to stay here. In this case, a certain amount of time would be wasted. After all, 1 year here was equivalent to 10,000 years in the Tower of Time. Actually, during those 10,000 years, Long Chen could do a lot of things. Whatever, now that I have a clue, I'll get it first. Outside this pale white star, Long Chen sat in the starry sky with his legs crossed. Before him was the pale white star. The entire star entered Long Chen's eyes. He just sat there, feeling this star. Feeling the track of the destiny rule. Feeling the power left by the mixed Yuan fate dragon. From time to time, he would walk on the pale white planet. At this time, Long Chen felt as if he was communicating with a complete life. When he immersed himself in the destiny rule and experienced this pale white star, he actually felt intoxicated. Look at Long Chen. The primordial war ancestor and the original soul ancestor stood side by side and looked at Long Chen from above the star. He's immersed in the destiny rule world. Such a state is naturally hard to come by. We are the creator ancestor gods. Although we can't increase the origin of the world, we can still comprehend the destiny rule. Actually, Long Chen's destiny rule is already on the same level as ours. What he lacks is power. Of course, obtaining the inheritance of other ancestor dragons is more important. Time passed quietly as the two ancestor gods discussed. Long Chen either gazed, walked, or sat on the ground. He even used the sky as his blanket and the earth as his mat to rest on this star. His state was even better than he had imagined. After about a month, he gradually formed the outline and track in his heart. Destiny. Destiny and wishes. The destiny of all living beings, the destiny of the myriad worlds, and the wishes of all living beings. Destiny was the future. Today, Long Chen had a deeper understanding of this. All things are destiny. In his eyes, all things in the world were changing. Long Chen could clearly see that everything carried a component of destiny. It was just that some things were of a higher or lower level. For example, the pale white star in front of him. The reason why Long Chen and the others had noticed it was because of its majestic destiny and exuberant destiny. It was no ordinary object. The two ancestor gods in Long Chen's eyes were the fourth epoch's primordial ancestor gods. They were powerful, so their destiny was even more majestic and could topple the myriad worlds. Their destiny could sweep through the myriad worlds. The only thing he couldn't see through was probably himself. All things are destiny. Destiny combusts. This was what Long Chen had comprehended. It was a brand new rule that belonged to destiny. He could see the karmic luck, and he could also fundamentally change it. Changing the karmic luck of dead things was much easier than changing the karmic luck of living things. It was very difficult for Long Chen to steal the karmic luck of the fourth epoch's primordial ancestor god, but he could make the pale white star's karmic luck burn. Under his rule, the primordial ancestor and the others saw the star beneath Long Chen's feet suddenly combusted with pure white flames. The flames instantly engulfed the entire star and enveloped Long Chen. What was combusted was a kind of destiny. It burned intensely. Whoosh! After burning for around 10 breaths of time, the giant star gradually shrank beneath Long Chen's feet. As it was forged by the flames, it became increasingly solid. During this process, the range of the pure white flames also shrank, but they became even more intense. Done. Finally, the star disappeared, and a white fireball appeared in Long Chen's hand. Under the contrast of this fireball, Long Chen's body was draped with a mysterious aura, making him appear even more outstanding. This was the effect of destiny binding. In the end, the white flames vanished, and what fell into Long Chen's hand was an exquisite white jade necklace. It was simple, moving, and filled with the profundities of fate. The jade necklace was formed from countless tiny crystalline grains. Each grain was like an entire world, and contained the hopes and desires of countless living beings. This is the Destiny Necklace. Chapter 3606. Finally, he got the fifth world origin. The world origin of fate. Holding the necklace of fate, Long Chen had a feeling that the dragon servants were standing in front of him and looking at him excitedly. Chaotic Hole Wizard Ancestor. This made Long Chen even more unable to forget his enemy. Fortunately, he had already gotten what he wanted. Every time he collected a world origin, Long Chen would feel more reassured because it meant that the hidden danger of the dragon sacrificial continent would be smaller. After all, he was worried that the other party would find the world origin first and destroy it. Congratulations! Finally, there was a harvest. The two primordial war ancestors were very happy for Long Chen. Let's go back first. After they returned to the dragon sacrificial continent, Long Chen would return to the Tower of Time. In this way, he would have a lot of time to study this necklace of fate. Perhaps the clue of the chaotic heavenly fate dragon was in this necklace of fate. In the Tower of Time, Lingxi's two world origins were approaching the level of the fourth era's ancestral god. Perhaps she would recover to the level of the fourth era's ancestral god faster than Long Chen. By then, she would be a great helper on Long Chen's side. As for Li Xuanji, perhaps it would take Long Chen to find the Shadow Dream Dragon's origin dragon soul and world origin before she could truly participate in the battle of the ancestral god level. The progress of his three children was also getting faster and faster. They were the ancestral dragons of destruction. Their future was limitless. The entire dragon sacrificial continent was surging and growing. A single spark would definitely set the prairie ablaze one day. Fate. A few days later, Long Chen sat on the ground on the fourth floor of the Tower of Time with legs crossed. He held the necklace of fate with both hands and tried to comprehend the world inside it. It was a misty white world that couldn't be seen clearly. Fate was like this. It was colorless and invisible, but it existed in everything in the world. It was accompanied by karma and time. Long Chen's spirit was galloping in this world of fate. He had seen many lives, many worlds, life and death, love and hatred, happiness and pain. They were all existences, and existence was value. However, what the sky-swallowing clan wanted to do was to devour all realms. All existences would disappear and lose their value. That would be eternal loneliness and coldness. It was the end of life. The destruction of the world, the shattering of all laws. This was absolutely not allowed. Swimming freely in fate. Countless war songs rang in his ears. At that moment, after breaking through the clouds, Long Chen saw a world. It was a cuboid world with a total of 6 sides. Each side was a different color and shone like a gem. All living things belonged to the God realm. When he saw this world that looked like a Rubik's Cube, Long Chen recognized it at first glance. After all, Long Chen was very familiar with nearly 10,000 worlds in the infinite worlds, especially the worlds of the Fourth Era. This cube-shaped world that looked like a Rubik's Cube was none other than Kitagarb's realm of all living beings. After observing it carefully, Long Chen exited the world of the Necklace of Fate. That's right. The Necklace of Fate gave me a hint that the origin dragon soul of the chaotic heavenly fate dragon should be in this world. Long Chen was sure. I'm in big trouble now. Previously, the Jiuli demon realm had 3 world origins, but there was no origin dragon soul. The ancestral dragons usually placed the origin dragon soul in a more secluded place. For example, inside Mount Buzhou, the 3rd era origin cave, the 2nd era origin cave, and so on. This time, Long Chen also thought it was a special place. He didn't expect it to be in the realm of all living beings. This is sacred ancestor Kitagarb's territory. It will be extremely difficult to find the origin dragon soul in a place like this. The 9 ancestral gods of the 4th era will definitely not let me search for it. But at least I know where it is. I should discuss it with the ancestral gods of chaos. No matter how difficult it was, Long Chen had to get the origin dragon soul back to him, to the dragon sacrificial continent, and to the divine dragons. This was also the greatest mission of his life. In the death realm. Because it was an important matter, the ancestral gods of the 4th era soon arrived. Before they arrived, Long Chen had already explained the matter to them. When they arrived, the ancestral gods were somewhat delighted, but they also frowned. Creation ancestor god said, "It's a great thing for you to know the location of the origin dragon soul, but the problem is that this is Kitagarb's territory. Kitagarba can't wait to kill you, so he won't give you a chance to become stronger." That's right. Long Chen, what's your plan? Chaos ancestor god asked. In fact, they still wanted to hear Long Chen's opinion. Long Chen thought for a moment and said, "We have to seize the origin dragon soul, but we lack a good opportunity. We have to find a time when divine ancestor Kitagarba is not in the realm of all beings. Besides, before we act, I have to take a look around the realm of all beings to make sure if I find anything." Although the dragon servants had passed away, Long Chen did not lose his mind. When his opponent was the ancestral god of the 4th era, who stood at the pinnacle of the myriad worlds, he had to be cautious. Only then could he win in the end. That's right. We can't not take action just because we are in the divine realm. These days, the ancestral emperor, Kitagarba, and the other 8 ancestral gods seem to be staying with the chaotic whole sorcerer ancestor. Although the chaotic whole sorcerer realm is very close to the divine realm, we only need to take Long Chen there to take a look. There should be no problem. We can take a look first and then make a decision. Okay. Long Chen was very eager. Every time he became an ancestral dragon, it was a transformation for him. Outside the divine realm, Long Chen had secretly left traces of the death realm dragon gate. It was easy to be exposed if there were too many people. This time, Fate Astral Ancestor would take Long Chen there alone. The others would stay in the death realm and wait for news. Fate Astral Ancestor, your rules of fate are somewhat similar to my fate. Similar, but different. Fate is only a part of fate. If you can become a mixed Yuan Destiny Dragon, you will be completely above me on this Tao, Fate Astral Ancestor said. After coming out of the Death Realm Dragon Gate, Fate Astral Ancestor hid Long Chen in a broken star. When he came here, the fourth era world, the divine realm for all beings, was exposed to Long Chen's eyes. It was a cube that looked like a Rubik's cube. It was very flat and had a total of 6 continents. There were no mountains, only endless plains, and millions of all beings lived on the 6 continents. The entire divine realm for all beings centered on a central point and rotated in the starry sky like a dice. Hidden in the dark, Fate Astral Ancestor asked, "Do you see the all beings or divine array?" "I see it." It was the array that divine ancestor Kitagarbha had set up to protect the divine realm for all beings. It was of a very high level. Although it was not as complicated as the array on the dragon sacrificial continent, it was not easy to break. Compared to the Xueqi demon clan's ancient Xueqi demon diagram, it was much more superior. If the 10 of us were to attack at the same time, we would be able to break this all-gods formation diagram in one attack. However, they are in the chaotic whole wizard realm not far away. With their speed, they will be able to reach here in 3 breaths. If you are fast enough with the origin dragon soul, you can attack now. Fate Astral Ancestor said. I see. Then, Long Chen had to determine the approximate location of the origin dragon soul before breaking the array. When the array was broken, he had to have a target. Long Chen longed to be strong. He also longed to face the ancestral god of the 4th era alone, and become the strongest expert in the myriad worlds. The mixed Yuan destiny dragon was actually the key. Then I'll look for it. He had been to the divine realm for all beings before, but of course he did not find anything. But this time it was slightly different. That was because this time, he had comprehended a new law of fate. His eyes could see that everything was luck, and he could even ignite the luck. With these eyes, he could see the divine realm for all beings. If he went to find the origin dragon soul of the mixed Yuan destiny dragon, he might find something. Long Chen was immersed in the law of fate. His eyes were cast on the divine realm for all beings. In his eyes, the world of the 4th era was rich with luck. Where is the origin dragon soul? Chapter 3607. In Long Chen's eyes, all of the living beings in the world of the gods transformed into something that looked like a burning flame of destiny. Long Chen's eyes were also burning with pale white flames. The all beings are divine realm, and there are countless beings of the divine race. The birds and beasts on them are all a kind of destiny, a kind of nature. In Long Chen's eyes, it was as if the all beings are divine realm was disintegrating. Destiny Star Ancestor also felt the changes in Long Chen's vision. He clicked his tongue in wonder, and admired Long Chen's progress even more. His efforts and determination weren't something the average person could compare to. Of course, the all beings are divine realm also has some substances from other worlds. But their destiny cannot compare to this entire world. What Long Chen was searching for was something different. In that instant he made a discovery. It should be said that after Long Chen developed this ability, the origin dragon soul was very obvious to him. After all, the origin dragon soul of the chaotic origin heavenly fate dragon was completely out of place in the god world. Furthermore, that was the ancestral dragon, the dragon of fate that controlled destiny. His destiny was the most dazzling thing in the myriad worlds. So even though the origin dragon soul was trapped in the core of the all beings or divine realm, Long Chen's eyes could still see past the all beings or divine realm and see the origin dragon soul of the chaos origin destiny dragon. That's it. He found it. All living beings were in the god realm, and it was a cuboid world like a Rubik's cube. The primordious heavenly fate dragon's origin dragon soul was located at the very core of the magic cube world, right in the center. It was clear that it was imprisoned in the core of this world. Although he didn't know how he got in, it was clear that it wasn't easy to get out from the inside. It was surrounded by the mud and lava of the entire world, as well as countless other barriers. Unless Long Chen was willing to destroy the world, then the all beings or divine race would be destroyed. How is it? Destiny Star Ancestor asked expectantly. Long Chen said, I found its location, but it's at the core of the world. It won't be easy to get it out, but it's not impossible. It just needs some time. He had vaguely established a certain connection with the Chaos Origin Destiny Dragon. He made a rough calculation in his mind. If the 10 of us break this formation map, 9 of us will intercept them, and 1 of us will go down with you to help you. How long will it take you to get it done? Destiny Star Ancestor wanted a more certain answer, because it was very likely that there would only be one chance. During the chaotic battle, the 9 opponents had learned of the existence of the Source Dragon's soul. If they failed, they definitely wouldn't give it to Long Chen. First, there are 2 possibilities. We can be sure that apart from divine ancestor Kitagarbha, the other ancestral gods don't know about the existence of the origin dragon's soul. As for divine ancestor Kitagarbha, if he knows about it but doesn't tell the others, this will be an opportunity for us. Long Chen pondered for a while. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was better to act as soon as possible. Otherwise, if they all knew about the origin dragon's soul, it would be difficult for them to take it away. If everything goes well, it will be done in about 15 minutes. If not, half an hour, Long Chen replied. Half an hour was a long time. It meant that they needed to intercept the 9 ancestral gods for half an hour. It was hard to predict what would happen in such a long time. Let's go back and discuss. He and Destiny Star Ancestor returned to the Death World. Since everyone was here, Long Chen explained the situation to them. They discussed for a while and basically reached a consensus. Chaos Ancestor God said, "Let's wait for a while and find the best opportunity. They are all in the chaotic whole sorcerer realm, and the distance is too short. If they are a little further, we will have a better chance." Of course, in order to avoid trouble, we can't wait too long. They needed a suitable opportunity. So they temporarily quieted down. It was very quiet. To the chaotic whole sorcerer ancestor and the others, Long Chen seemed to have forgotten the hatred of the dragon attendants. He was enduring and lying low. For a long time, the 8 fourth-era ancestral gods stayed with the chaotic whole sorcerer ancestor. They were probably afraid that Long Chen would take revenge on the chaotic whole sorcerer ancestor. However, as time passed, there was still no movement from Long Chen. About a month later, 2 ancestral gods were worried about the situation in their own worlds and left. It will take more than 15 minutes for these 2 to reach the All-Beings Divine Realm during the battle, which means we have 2 less opponents for the time being. However, they will probably return soon. Although a lot of time had passed, it was still not the best time. So, Long Chen was still waiting. A few days later, another 4th-era ancestral god left, but the previous 2 had already returned. The timing was not as good as before. Waiting like this was not a solution. Long Chen said, "Once a total of 3 elder gods leave, we'll attack." The remaining 6 had to face the 10 4th-era ancestral gods. Only then would Long Chen have enough time to take away the origin dragon's soul. However, it would definitely be a rather thrilling battle full of twists and turns. As Long Chen expected, about 3 days later, the Xueqi demon ancestor had not returned. Another 2 ancestral gods left, leaving the chaotic whole sorcerer ancestor, the mortal people emperor ancestor, the Kitagarbha ancestor, the bright gold ancestor, and the devilish silver ancestor. It's time. Long Chen and the 10 ancestral gods seized this opportunity to come out of the Death Realm Dragon Gate and quickly spread out around the All-Beings Divine Array. Among them, the Primordial War Ancestor and the Original Soul Ancestor were beside Long Chen, responsible for protecting and helping Long Chen. A total of 8 ancestral gods were sent to deal with the other 6 as insurance. To a certain extent, the All-Beings Divine Array is connected to the All-Beings Divine Clan. If we forcibly destroy it, some of the living beings will be injured and may even die. It's okay. I can bring them back to life. Long Chen was already prepared. At this moment, the 10 ancestral gods attacked together. When 10 different kinds of 4th-era ancestral god laws fell on the All-Beings Divine Realm at the same time, the seemingly sturdy array was instantly torn apart by the violent power of the laws. Buzz! The entire cube was shaking violently. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Earthquakes swept across. There were indeed many casualties. However, Long Chen was already prepared. When the array was torn apart, his fire of life instantly swept across the entire world. The injured and even dead ancestral gods were reborn and recovered in a very short time. The turquoise fire had already spread all over the world to avoid casualties. Go down. Long Chen, the Primordial War Ancestor, and the Original Soul Ancestor all landed in a place closest to the Origin Dragon Soul. Who is it? A furious cry rang out from the Chaos Whole Wizard realm. In an instant, 6 4th-era ancestral gods rushed over. They were Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha and the others. They naturally saw Long Chen and the 10 ancestral gods. Long Chen, How dare you kill my people to take revenge on me? You beast! Sacred ancestor Kitagarbia's tragic roar swept across countless worlds. 10 ancestral dragons. You are Long Chen's lackeys and accomplices. In order to suppress us, you are so vicious. You deserve to die. Accompanied by angry roars, the 6 of them rushed over. The other 3 were also returning quickly. The infinite worlds were not very large for the 4th era ancestral gods. When they arrived, Long Chen had already begun to summon the origin dragon soul. With the 2 primordial war ancestors protecting him, he was very relieved. Long Chen, get out of my world. Sacred ancestor Kitagarba flew into a rage and attacked. Don't panic. We are your opponents. Led by the Chaos Ancestral God, 8 ancestral gods stood in front of the 6 of them. They formed a team and intercepted them. What are you trying to do? Mortal Ancestor Emperor realized that there must be something fishy going on. He remembered that Long Chen had done some strange things in the Jiuli demon realm. In the end, he obtained some of the ancestral dragon's inheritance. Today, he was making such a big fuss. They are looking for the ancestral dragon's inheritance, Mortal Ancestor Emperor said with certainty. What? Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbia's face turned green. This was his world, but he seemed to know nothing about it. Life burn. Time was running out for Long Chen. He pressed his palm on the ground. He wanted to change the land and let the origin dragon soul come out. Chapter 3608. Dream on. When they saw that Long Chen had already taken action, the 6 ancestral gods of the 4th era were instantly enraged. If they didn't take action now, they wouldn't have a chance to stop Long Chen. Stop them. The primal Chaos Elder God and the other 7 Elder Gods each kept a close eye on their opponents. The 2 extra Elder Gods could launch sneak attacks from the surroundings, which would be enough to give their opponents the greatest amount of pressure. Boom. A terrifying battle broke out in the sky above the god world. A battle between the highest-level ancestor gods was nothing short of a calamity for ordinary living beings. Thankfully, Long Chen was able to use the natural laws of life to protect the people of the god world. Otherwise, there would be millions upon millions of casualties. However, he couldn't stop the shockwaves from the battle, and he couldn't stop the damage done to the god world. Everyone, you'd better stop. Otherwise, the first to be affected will be the realm of all living things. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarba. In the face of the frenzied ancestral gods, Primal Chaos Ancestral God and the others were much calmer. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarba was the fiercest. How laughable. If the god world is destroyed, it'll be destroyed by you people. Of course I'll wipe out one of your worlds. 10 of them. I'll bury all of them with me. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarba had always put on a compassionate face to save all living beings, but now, he had completely revealed his ferocious side. He didn't have the slightest misgivings about the god world. It was as if this was not his world. This caused the primal Chaos Elder Gods and the others to frown. In order to kill Long Chen, they have already entered a state of obsession. No matter what, stop them. The Elder Gods of Primordial Chaos and the others didn't hold back in the face of the 6 wildly attacking Elder Gods. Chaotic 9-colored lotus. Chaos Ancestral God's opponent was none other than Sacred Ancestor Kitagarba, who was the craziest at the moment. He was the man who cared the least about the lives of all the gods. Myriad Life Roulette. This was the essence of Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbia's world. On the Life is God world, the primal chaos 9-colored lotus and the life will collided violently. The resulting shockwave swept out, causing the Life is God world to collapse. Long Chen, time is running out. Primordial War Ancestor reminded. If it were just a normal interception, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But the problem was that they were in the vicinity of the god world, and every attack they made was a disaster for the entire world. If all living beings were destroyed by the god realm, the hatred between them would grow even greater. The ancestral gods of the primal chaos ancestral gods would probably go crazy and attack the worlds of the primal chaos ancestral gods, and even the innocent worlds. Understood. Long Chen's eyes were calm. The power of destiny seeped deep into the ground of this world. The flame of destiny couldn't harm anything, but it could penetrate everything. Long Chen wanted to build a path to the flame of destiny in this deep underground. As long as he could touch the origin dragon soul of the Chaos Fate Dragon, the Chaos Fate Dragon could come out. Just a little bit more. After all, it was clearly not easy to find a passageway for the origin dragon soul to pass through in such a deep core location. Continue. Continue. Long Chen gritted his teeth. Right now, he couldn't use much of the power of destiny. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem for him to destroy the entire Life is God world. The sky was colorful, and the Life is God world was trembling. Even Long Chen's flame of life couldn't keep up with the number of casualties. Long Chen couldn't bear to see any of the casualties that he had caused. Because it was all because of him. These sentient beings are innocent. The myriad worlds need order. The ancestor god's strength is just too great. He stands above all sentient beings and rules over everything. They should live in a world on the same level and not under the ancestor god's tyranny. Long Chen's goal was to establish order, so that the masses of the myriad worlds wouldn't have to worry. They wouldn't have to face the risk of being annihilated. Boom. An intense tremor caused the ground around Long Chen to explode. The sky was filled with surging rivers and seas, drowning them. Amidst the surging rivers and seas, it was unknown how many lives were destroyed. Hurry! Long Chen urged himself. Pierce through. After much effort, his flame of destiny finally reached the core of the Rubik's Cube. The origin dragon soul of the Chaos Origin Fate Dragon was located there. Success! Long Chen was overjoyed. He had found the origin dragon soul, and now all he had to do was lure it out. Come out! Origin dragon soul. He had been waiting for this moment for far too long. However, right at this time, the 3/4 epic ancestral gods who had left earlier had arrived in the enemy's camp one after another. The battlefield was already in a dire state, and one of the ancestral gods was rushing towards Long Chen to kill him. From the looks of it, he didn't care about the god world at all. I'll go stop him. The primordial soul ancestor left and clashed with the ancestor god. A huge battle instantly broke out, and Long Chen was saved from danger. Long Chen, time is running out. The primordial war ancestor reminded. The other side had all arrived, and they were especially ruthless. Therefore, the primordial chaos ancestor god and the others inevitably had their hands tied. So far, the other side had formed a state of suppression. They could break through the defense at any time and come to Long Chen's side. They might even achieve their goal of killing Long Chen. After all, Long Chen was being held back here by the Chaos Origin Fate Dragon. Attack the Life is God world. At some point, one of the 4th era ancestor gods conveyed the news to his companions. For a moment, the Chaos Whole ancestor and the others changed their minds. They were no longer trying to break through, but to leave the battlefield and attack the Life is God world without saying a word. You're crazy. Under their attacks, the Life is God world could be easily destroyed. Before this, the primordial chaos ancestor god and the others had been trying to avoid causing damage to the Life is God world. Now, instead of attacking their opponents, they directly attacked the world. You're the crazy ones. How dare you come to my world and steal my things? If my world is destroyed, it will be destroyed by you. The 10 worlds of yours will all be buried with the Life is God world. Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha said in a mighty voice. You! The primordial chaos ancestor god and the others were really angry. Under such circumstances, they had to bear the attacks of their opponents themselves. Otherwise, they couldn't bear to see the world really destroyed. They also knew that Long Chen couldn't bear it either. For the sake of killing Long Chen, the 9 of them have truly gone insane. One day, they will definitely regret their actions today. To be honest, the primordial chaos ancestor god and the others had never really been angry with these 9 opponents. But now it was different. They had gone too far. Long Chen. The 9 of them couldn't withstand the attacks of the other side for long. At this time, even the primordial war ancestor had to take action to stop the attacks that were descending on the Life is God world. They were really attacking with a determination to destroy the world. Come out. Long Chen already knew this was going to happen. He gritted his teeth and was drenched in sweat. He was using all his strength to guide the Chaos Origin Fate Dragon's Origin Dragon Soul to descend. In the passage of destiny he had built, the Origin Dragon Soul was indeed appearing. It rushed out bit by bit. Of course, the Origin Dragon Soul didn't want to be imprisoned in this place. It also longed to see Long Chen. It was the most thrilling moment. Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha and the other crazy ancestor gods shifted their target to all living beings. Even with the primordial chaos ancestor god and the others stopping them, many living beings were still suffering. In fact, for all living beings, the arrival of the ancestor gods didn't seem to be a good thing. Especially ancestor gods like divine ancestor Kitagarbha. Damn it! Outside, the flames of war were raging. Watching the world go berserk, Longchen didn't expect them to be so cruel. Fortunately, the primordial chaos ancestor god and the others were doing their best to resist. Chaos Origin Fate Dragon. It was the pressure that made Longchen extremely anxious. He couldn't tolerate everything at this moment. Therefore, he also fell into a state of madness. The Origin Dragon's soul was guided by him and was madly coming out from underground through the passage of the flames of destiny. In the end, when the primordial chaos ancestor god and the others were under the greatest pressure, the Life is God world let out a shocking dragon roar. A pale white dragon rushed out of the ground, illuminating the world and circling around Longchen. It worked. Longchen was overjoyed. Time was of the essence. Longchen hurriedly opened the realm of life and let the Origin Dragon soul of the chaotic Yuan Fate Dragon rush in. It's done. Chapter 3609. The Origin Dragon's soul of the chaotic Origin Fate Dragon was in his hands. Longchen, you go back first. The 10 of us will talk to them. The primal chaos ancestral god said. All right. However, now that I've settled down, I'll be able to use my life force to heal the injured and revive the dead. In the blink of an eye, Longchen disappeared along with the primordial Fate Dragon. Thus, the Chaos Whole Ancestor and the others lost their target. Naturally, they knew that Longchen had succeeded. However, their hearts were filled with even more hatred, and they did not stop their attacks. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha, are you really going to destroy your own world? Because of the huge commotion caused by the battle, there were actually quite a few elder gods lying in ambush in the surroundings. However, they didn't dare to approach. They naturally knew what was going on, and at this moment, a single sentence from primordial chaos elder god would sweep through the infinite worlds. I can't deny that the Origin Dragon soul in your world belongs to Longchen. It's the legacy of the ancestral dragon, and it belongs to Longchen in the first place. You don't have any use for it, so why are you so stubborn? Now that Longchen has the Origin Dragon soul, my advice to you is useless. The ancestor gods of the myriad of worlds aren't idiots. If you continue to go crazy and destroy your own world just to take revenge on us, I'd like to see who else in the myriad of worlds will listen to you. The primal chaos ancestor god wanted to let all the ancestor gods of the myriad worlds know about the current situation. After the incident with ancestor god Pango last time, the ancestor gods of the myriad worlds no longer trusted them. If such an incident were to happen again today and word got out, he believed that all the ancestor gods would support Longchen and refuse to associate with them. Wake up. Don't push yourself into the abyss. Today, we came to fight for the ancestral dragon's inheritance, but the situation is like this. We are protecting your world, and you are destroying your world to threaten us. Don't you find it funny? Even the weakest of elder gods would find this unacceptable. This was the complete opposite. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha is merciful. How could they? Even though it's Longchen who's here to rob them, it doesn't make sense for him to threaten them with the destruction of his own world and its people. Could it be that their hearts are actually that dark? No wonder they don't want Longchen to rule over the world. It's because Longchen will control them. The scuffle had caused the reputation of Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha and the others to fall to the bottom. All of you. More and more people were talking about Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha. Although Longchen had left, they were still attacking crazily. However, now that they didn't even have a target, it was clear that they had failed. If they continued attacking, their reputation would only worsen. If he continued to destroy the worlds of the 10 elder gods, then he would be a completely evil person, a person who would be despised by all. Now that everyone was pointing fingers at them, and even the Celestials themselves were cursing at them, the 9 indignant ancestor gods had no choice but to stop. However, the anger and grievance in their hearts could not dissipate. In the death rain, Longchen noticed the black hole shaman ancestor. He was very low-key and seemed to be the calmest of the 9 ancestor gods. There was a faint smile on his face, but even in death, Longchen would never forget that 8 of his seniors had died at the hands of the black hole shaman ancestor. Right now, he didn't have the qualifications to take revenge. Today, it could only be regarded as a counterattack against him, But after all, it was not the world of the black hole wizard ancestor, so he was somewhat indifferent. Long Chen. At this time, Long Chen came out of the death rain. He didn't say much. In front of all the living beings and the ancestor gods, he began to display the law of life to save the people of the realm of all beings. There's no need for you to do that. Get lost, or don't blame us for being impolite, Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha said coldly. Long Chen didn't say much, but his fire of life had already enveloped the whole world. Under the burning of the fire of life, those dead souls would naturally be quickly reborn. In fact, they would even be reborn. This could be considered as Long Chen's gift to them. Let's go. He and the 10 ancestor gods gathered together and left the realm of all beings under the covetous gaze of the ancestor gods. The 9 ancestor gods looked at each other in dismay. Get lost. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha was furious. He shouted, scaring away the surrounding ancestor gods. Sacred light of salvation. He spread his arms like a heavenly god, shining with boundless light that illuminated the world. While expelling Long Chen's fire of life, he was also blessing the world. After a period of recuperation, the realm of all beings had almost recovered. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha gnashed his teeth and said, "Everyone, let's talk about what we should do. We just killed a few of his elders and were in a good mood, but we suffered such a big loss. Now that he has obtained a new inheritance, it won't be long before he appears again. I'm afraid that he will surpass us." For the time being, no one had a solution. Shaman Ancestor, didn't you say last time that you had a way to deal with Long Chen? Everyone faced the Shaman Ancestor together. The Shaman Ancestor smiled and said, "There's no hurry. I have my own plan. I guarantee that we will kill him once and for all. Of course, I can't let you know. If one of us goes to the other side during this period, my method won't work." Chapter 36:10. In the Chaotic Hole Sorcerer Realm. About 3 months had passed, and the 9 ancestral gods of the 4th era were still here. They were waiting for the so-called plan of the Chaotic Hole Sorcerer Ancestor. But during this period of time, the Chaotic Hole Sorcerer Ancestor was extremely relaxed, as if he was recuperating from his injuries. He was not in a hurry at all. In the beginning, the Common People Emperor Ancestor and Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha were still in the mood to wait. However, as time passed, the other 8 ancestral gods began to feel resentful. According to their estimation, Long Chen had already fused with the origin dragon soul of the chaotic heavenly fate dragon during this period of time. And now he probably had the divine bodies of the 5 ancestral dragons. No, we can't wait here any longer. The Common People Emperor Ancestor could not stand it anymore. During this period of time, whenever he thought of how Long Chen had taken away the origin dragon soul of the chaotic heavenly fate dragon in front of them, his heart would burn with anger, and he could not wait to go out and start a massacre. That's right, I can't wait any longer. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha was anxious. They discussed for a while. Of course, they did it behind the Chaotic Hole Sorcerer Ancestor's back. The Chaotic Hole Sorcerer Ancestor seems to be different from before. I think he's afraid. He accidentally killed Long Chen's elder, so he must know that Long Chen now hates him very much and may bring the 10 ancestral gods of the 4th era to take revenge at any time. He claims that he has a way to deal with Long Chen, so he gathered us here. I think. The plant demon ancestor frowned and asked, "You mean that the Chaotic Hole Sorcerer Ancestor is lying to us? He's just worried about his life, so he told us that he has a way to deal with Long Chen. So we're just wasting our time here." The Common People Emperor Ancestor curled his lips and said, "I didn't say that. That's what you think." At this time, Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha interrupted. "All right, that's not important. It's up to the Chaotic Hole Sorcerer Ancestor to do what he wants. However, we're wasting our time here, and that's not wrong. I suggest we attack." How to attack? Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha said, last time, when Long Chen came to snatch the origin dragon soul, although there weren't many casualties in the divine realm, the whole world suffered serious damage, which was caused by Long Chen. We can go to the dragon sacrificial continent and use this as an excuse to take revenge on him. Even if we can't kill Long Chen, we can't let Long Chen grow stronger in peace. We've actually wasted our time here, and failed to cause trouble for him. Truly foolish. If we were to continue waiting like this sooner or later, that Long Chen will be able to easily eliminate us. Although they were the strongest experts of the infinite worlds, they still had their own worries at this time. After some discussion, they seemed to have basically agreed. After the 8 ancestral gods made their decision, they would inform the black hole wizard ancestor about it. That's it. We can't wait any longer. It's time to act. Common People's Emperor ancestor didn't directly say that the Chaos Hole ancestor was wasting time, but his actions made it clear. Very well, the 9 of us will go together and try to break the formation of the dragon sacrificial continent, the black hole wizard ancestor said with a smile. It seems that this guy is afraid of being alone and wants to be with all of us at all times. Everyone couldn't help but sneer inwardly. They didn't expect the black hole wizard ancestor to be so timid. Then let's not delay. Let's go. The group of 9 ancestral gods of the 4th era unanimously agreed and headed toward the dragon sacrificial continent. The formation of the dragon sacrificial continent was jointly set up by 10 ancestral gods of the 4th era, so it's much tougher. But even if we can't break it, as long as it's damaged, it'll still be a loss, and it'll make them even more worried. We have to make Long Chen restless so that we can create an opportunity to kill him. Just like the time when Ancestor God Pangu was the best opportunity. We almost killed him. While saying this, everyone couldn't help but look at the black hole wizard ancestor, probably blaming him for not grasping such a good opportunity. The black hole wizard ancestor lowered his head as if he didn't hear their discussion. After a short period of time, the incomparably vast dragon sacrificial continent, which was more than 10 times the size of an original level world, appeared in front of the ancestral gods. Although it wasn't their first time seeing it, the ancestral gods were still shocked, envious, and fearful. It was such a world that dominated the vast myriad realms before the epoch. The myriad realms were more than 10 times the size, and the 10 great ancestral dragons were completely above the ancestral gods. Because of this, the ancestral gods of the 4th era, who didn't want to be bound, were so afraid of Long Chen. This dragon sacrificial continent is really a miracle. Of course. We call the myriad realms you mentioned the dragon sacrificial continent, said the bright gold ancestor. The dragon sacrificial continent. These 4 words made the other 7 ancestral gods feel uncomfortable. They thought that their own world was the top. There are at least 10 layers of formation on it. The 9 ancestral gods secretly hovered around the dragon sacrificial continent and began to examine it. They really put in a lot of effort. Every layer of the formation is almost the same as my all beings belong to the realm of gods. Even sacred ancestor Kitagarb's eyes were red. Okay, then let's do it together. Let's see how many layers we can break before they arrive. Okay. The ancestral gods of the 4th era were all proud and arrogant people. In fact, none of them were willing to submit to the other. When they were ready, they attacked almost at the same time. For a moment, the dragon sacrificial continent, which had been quiet for a long time, finally received a blow. The largest lineup of the myriad realms, the 9 ancestral gods of the 4th era, unleashed all their skills at the same time. The dazzling, overbearing power of the rules swept across the dragon sacrificial continent and the surrounding endless star regions in a short period of time. Disaster descended. There are many ancestral gods of the 4th era outside. Even in the Tower of Time, Long Chen discovered them not long after they appeared. I've been cultivating in seclusion for so long, but they haven't made any moves. It's already a bit slow for them to come here today. However, the fact that they chose to attack the dragon sacrificial continent directly showed their determination to fight to the death with Long Chen. Everyone, they're here. Long Chen only needed to say this for the 10 ancestral gods to know. In order to prevent the 9 ancestral gods from acting recklessly, they were basically guarding their own worlds. Now, when Long Chen mentioned them, all of them had arrived. In that case, there was no need for them to guard their own worlds anymore. For a moment, the 10 ancestral gods and Long Chen arrived at the death rain. They're destroying the formation of the dragon sacrificial continent. Long Chen, let's go out and drive them away. You stay here. I think their goal is to disturb your cultivation. Although we're at the edge of the dragon sacrificial continent, we're not afraid of them. Okay. After Long Chen nodded, they went out, while Long Chen stayed in the death rain. I really want to go out and fight, but with my current level, it's still a little dangerous. Therefore, Long Chen stayed in the death rain. His line of sight was outside the dragon's sacrificial continent. Watching the battle will let me understand the strength of the ancestral gods of the Fourth Era. Only by knowing oneself and the enemy could one emerge victorious. Right now, only these 9 ancestral gods of the Fourth Era stood between Long Chen and the Sky-Swallowing clan. They were Long Chen's most important targets. Rumble. When Long Chen paid attention to the situation outside, the 10 ancestral gods had just left. At this time, the second formation set up by the primordial ancestor god, the 10,000-layer primordial spatial formation, had already been destroyed. In a short period of time, 2 formations had been destroyed. There were 8 formations left. Of course, even if there were only 2 formations, it was the blood and sweat of the ancestral gods. Once all 10 formations were destroyed, the dragon sacrificial continent would be directly exposed to the 9 ancestral gods of the Fourth Era. That would be a huge problem. Once they used the dragon sacrificial continent to threaten him, Long Chen would definitely die. Stop. The 10 ancestral gods knew the importance of this formation. After coming out, they immediately acted and blocked the 9 ancestral gods. So fast. Divine Ancestor Kitagaba sneered. At this time, the primordial war ancestor had already arrived in front of him to block him, but Divine Ancestor Kitagaba actually began to flee. This was his plan, because as he fled, he attacked the 3rd formation of the dragon sacrificial continent. The other 8 did the same. With them around, it was indeed not easy for the 9 ancestor gods to attack. With so many 5th Era ancestor gods, their strength was equivalent to 4 or 5 4th Era ancestor gods, which was very troublesome. Taking the lead, Hongjun said calmly, "Sacred Ancestor Kitagaba, don't take us for fools. We clearly saw what happened in the all-beings godly realm. It was you who really destroyed the world and killed all living beings. It was Long Chen who saved the world. As for your so-called robbery, it was just Long Chen who took what belonged to him." The 5th Era ancestor gods present were all aware of this matter. Sacred Ancestor Kitagaba did not expect that the 5th Era ancestor gods would be so angry that he almost died of anger. The mortal people's imperial ancestor said gloomily, "I remember who you are. After today's matter is over, I'll settle the score with you one by one. At that time, I'll see if Long Chen can protect all of you. If you know what's good for you, get out of here now." He had never taken the 5th Era ancestor gods seriously. Hongjun said calmly, "Mortal people's imperial ancestor, don't scare us with such a cheap method. To tell you the truth, we are on Long Chen's side. No matter how you threaten us, we won't be swayed because we are all glad that we made such a choice. Look at what you said today. Do you still act like a 4th Era ancestor god? If the future of the myriad worlds is under your control and stability, I think it will be a terrible thing." What ancestor god Hongjun said was also the opinion of the other 5th Era ancestor gods. In truth, Long Chen had never overlooked the 5th Era's ancestor gods. They were all experts of their own domains. If the myriad worlds were a kingdom, and each of the 4th Era's ancestor gods was a vassal king, then the 5th Era's ancestor gods were all outstanding generals. Ancestor god Hongjun, do you believe that I will go to the Hongjun Star Sea right now and destroy it? The mortal people's imperial ancestor said anxiously. He wanted to make an example out of them. What he didn't know was that this would allow the 5th Era ancestor gods to see their true colors. They were even more determined to stand on Long Chen's side. "Then, we will all die together with you, mortal people's imperial ancestor." Die together. These were the thoughts of all the 5th Era ancestor gods present. In fact, the other 5th Era ancestor gods had already arrived. Through this conversation, they all made their decision to leave mortal people's imperial ancestor side and stand on the dragon sacrificial continent side. In the past, mortal people's imperial ancestor and the others attracted the 5th Era ancestor gods because of the fairness of the ancestor god alliance. But now, mortal people's imperial ancestor and the others were the dregs of the ancestor god alliance. The essence of the ancestor god alliance had already gathered on Long Chen's side. Therefore, mortal people's imperial ancestor had nothing else that could attract them. Now, Long Chen could be said to have the approval and support of everyone. There were even more ancestor gods shouting. An overwhelming righteous aura surrounded them. All of you. The 9 fourth-era ancestor gods were so angry that they almost died. For a moment, they didn't say anything else. They didn't care that the 5th-era ancestor gods were still here and attacked even more violently. The 5th-era ancestor gods gathered together and faced them together, preventing them from being defeated one by one. Of course, the primal chaos ancestor gods and the other 9 were not to be trifled with. From now on, they could only protect themselves. It would be very difficult to destroy the array diagram, unless they were willing to fight to the death here for a few years. The chaotic battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. They were all exhausted. They had already destroyed the 3rd array diagram of the dragon sacrificial continent, but mortal people's imperial ancestor and the others couldn't take another step forward. Sacred ancestor Kitagarb's eyes were red. He looked at his opponents and laughed coldly. Very good. You have all become Long Chen's lackeys and are willing to let him be your master. Unfortunately, while you are fighting with your lives on the line, your master is hiding behind and enjoying himself. How ridiculous. Do you think he cares about you? In his heart, you are all slaves. One day, you will regret what kind of disaster you have created and what kind of catastrophe you have brought to the myriad worlds. Chapter 36:12. Of course, no matter what they said, the ancestral gods of the 5th era would not be swayed. After all, they had already exposed too much. No words would work now. The ancestral gods who were standing here and guarding the dragon sacrificial continent had all made this choice after careful consideration. How could they allow others to encourage them? The ancestral gods of the 5th era made the 9 ancestral gods even angrier. You're really courting death. Enraged, the 9 ancestral gods stopped fighting with Chaos Ancestral God and the others. They even gave up on attacking the ancestral gods of the dragon sacrificial continent. Instead, they attacked and crushed the ancestral gods of the 5th era. Although Chaos Ancestral God and the others were trying their best to stop them, the ancestral gods of the 5th era would indeed be seriously injured or even killed if they made a mistake. Despicable and shameless. The ancestral gods cursed angrily. By now, the 9 ancestral gods had become rascals. They especially targeted ancestor god Hongjun because he was the leader of this group of ancestral gods. On several occasions, elder god Hongjun fell into a dangerous situation. This great chaotic battle that shook the myriad of worlds lasted for an entire 3 days. The 9 fourth era's progenitor gods that were isolated were in an extremely sorry state, but the lethality they caused was extremely terrifying. He wasn't afraid that the 9 of them would break the formation diagram of the dragon sacrificial continent. Instead, he was worried that they would continue to pester the dragon sacrificial continent and the 5th era's ancestral gods if they didn't stop attacking for a long time. If that continued, there would eventually be a gap that would bring danger to the dragon sacrificial continent and the 5th era's ancestral gods. Of course, during this process, Chaos Ancestral God and the others had several opportunities to seriously injure or even kill the other side, but the other side was not afraid of death, and Chaos Ancestral God and the others often had to stop at the last moment. It was because of their shamelessness that this chaotic battle was so troublesome. Haha, you're fighting with your lives here, but your master is still a coward. Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha had endured for a long time and finally found an opportunity to seriously injure and almost kill an ancestral god of the 5th era. When they attacked, whether it was to destroy the world origin, they were very ruthless. The strength of the 9 of them was basically no different from that of the 10 ancestral gods of the 4th era on Long Chen's side. When they were shameless to the point that they didn't care about their lives, they were indeed very difficult to deal with. Even the Chaos Ancestor God and the others would have a headache. After all, they were in the vicinity of the dragon sacrificial continent, which restricted the extent of their attacks to a certain extent. Long Chen, they are trying their best to goad you into coming out. Don't fall for their tricks. After a period of time, they won't be able to gain anything from this and will scram with their tails between their legs. Ancestor God Creation reminded him. Long Chen said, if that's the case, even the 5th era's ancestral god will be in danger. If we let the 5th era's ancestral god leave first, then the dragon sacrificial continent's formation will be in danger. They are certain that you guys won't be able to fight with your full strength here, which is why they are so arrogant. If this goes on, it's indeed not good. But if you appear, you will fall into their trap. No problem. Since everyone is so supportive of me, I must come out at the crucial moment. This matter needs to be resolved, otherwise, they will continue to use it as an excuse. Sure. They did not object to Long Chen appearing. After all, they understood Long Chen's current situation. He would not be killed so easily. Just as the fifth era's ancestral god was struggling to deal with the killing moves of the 9 ancestral gods from time to time, Long Chen came out of the dragon sacrificial continent's formation and appeared in the vision of all the ancestral gods. Before this, he was at the dragon sacrificial continent with his wife, children, and brothers. All the divine dragons knew that outside the dragon sacrificial continent, there was a battle that concerned the fate of the dragon sacrificial continent. Even with the protection of the formation, this battle would cause the entire dragon sacrificial continent to shake violently. The fate of the people, the future of the dragon sacrificial continent. Almost all the divine dragons had gathered together. They were all determined to fight to the death, even if these opponents were not the ones they had imagined, the ones whom they needed to take revenge on. The real enemy of the divine dragons was the sky-devouring clan. You finally dared to come out, Long Chen. Divine ancestor Pudu narrowed his eyes and examined Long Chen. Since you've achieved your goal, then stop. Long Chen's eyes were burning. He stared back at his opponent and did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Now, the one who hated him the most was divine ancestor Pudu. When their gazes met, intense sparks were produced. This was a historic moment. Because of Long Chen's appearance, the other side was the first to stop fighting. Then, the ancestral gods on Long Chen's side stopped. The chaotic battle that had lasted for many days finally came to a halt. However, when nearly 80 ancestral gods from the 4th era and the 5th era stood behind Long Chen, the chaotic whole ancestor and the others were still deeply shocked. In the past few days, about 10 more ancestral gods from the 5th era had joined the fray. Now, almost half of the ancestral gods of the Alliance were standing behind Long Chen and clustered around Long Chen. Even the chaotic whole ancestor god was willing to be a supporting character for Long Chen. Surrounded by them, Long Chen, who was at the center, was like the emperor of the myriad worlds. As for the chaotic whole ancestor and the others, they were simply rebels. Most importantly, Long Chen still had the aura to suppress so many ancestral gods from the 4th era and the 5th era. After not seeing him for a few months, Long Chen's dragon aura had improved again. Especially with the support of so many ancestral gods, it was simply shocking. Such a Long Chen made divine ancestor Pudu and the others even waver. Everyone, I'm out. If you want to say something, just say it. Long Chen was very magnanimous. The many ancestral gods behind him had given him the greatest inner strength. He was not a single person but a whole body of will. His words suppressed the chaotic whole ancestor and the others. For a moment, no one stood up to speak. You have the guts, the mortal people emperor scolded. Is that all you can say? A dog's mouth can't spit out ivory. Long Chen laughed. Now, in this civil war, with the improvement of his own strength and the support of the myriad world's ancestor gods, he had already gained the upper hand. You're courting death. Remember, the one being threatened now is you. If you can't satisfy us, we will definitely fight to the death until your dragon sacrificial continent is destroyed, the mortal people emperor ancestor said angrily. Oh, how scary. Long Chen's indifferent attitude made the people behind him laugh. In fact, he was just making a scene here. In Long Chen's eyes, the person he hated the most was still the chaotic whole ancestor. Now, the chaotic whole ancestor was hiding behind the crowd, expressionless and silent. However, the fact that he had killed the dragon servants was still stuck in Long Chen's heart. This was a blood feud, and Long Chen would definitely settle this score. Divine ancestor Kitagarbha said, Long Chen, do you know why I want to destroy your dragon sacrificial continent today? You haven't forgotten that you fought in my all beings are God realm, for the origin dragon soul, destroyed my world, and destroyed my people, right? Today, I'm here to seek justice. Today, if you don't give us a satisfactory explanation, I'm sorry, but we won't leave. If we stay here, you won't be able to eat and sleep in peace. The mortal people emperor ancestor sneered and said, Who knows, we might just kill a few ancestral gods of the 5th era to vent our anger. 10 days, 1 year. We have all the time in the world to waste time with you. The other party continued to speak without end. This was pure shamelessness, and it was also a threat to Long Chen. If they continued to waste time like this, it would indeed not be good for Long Chen. For the ancestral gods of the fifth era, it was a dangerous situation. Given the current temperament of these 9 ancestral gods, it was entirely possible for them to kill an ancestral god. Then tell me, what do you want to satisfy me? In fact, Long Chen had already expected this. They were just using this excuse to find an opportunity to kill Long Chen. Just like the incident with Pangu. Sure enough, Divine Ancestor Kitagarbha said, "Whoever owes me will pay for it. You destroyed my world, so you have to pay for it. You only need to fight me alone, and no one else can interfere. Then I will forget about the past." It was the same again. Of course, this was the only way they could kill Long Chen. At other times, they couldn't find Long Chen. You better think it through. Either come and fight, or your dragon sacrificial continent will be destroyed. Among them, almost all the ancestral gods of the fifth era, except for the destruction ancestral god of the second era, were on Long Chen's side. The lineup of nearly 100 people was quite heaven-defying. Set off by this lineup, Long Chen became more and more glorious. Now that all the ancestral gods of the infinite worlds are here, and we have so much power in our hands, I kind of want to rush over and kill all 9 of them. After all, this is not next to the dragon sacrificial continent, said the demonic ancestor of 6 paths. The chaotic ancestral god smiled. There's no other way. First, even with so many ancestral gods of the fifth era, we can't kill them. At most we can kill 1 or 2. The rest will definitely escape. If they escape, it will be a disaster for the entire infinite worlds. They will destroy the entire infinite worlds out of hatred. This is what we fear the most. Second, the creator ancestral gods have too many lives at stake. We can't kill them unless there's a way to kill them without affecting the lives of the people. Yes, it's because there are so many troubles that Long Chen has so many restrictions when dealing with them. After all, they are all on the same side. But if he's dealing with the Sky Devouring clan, he won't have so many concerns, said the primordial war ancestor. While they were sighing, Long Chen was extremely domineering and imposing. He went straight to the center of the battle and said to Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha, "Come on, we'll decide life and death in 3 moves. You have guts." Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha, bald and dressed in a snow-white kasaya, appeared in the sky. Behind him, there seemed to be trillions of faith followers. His rule was a bit similar to that of the Eternal God clan. It could be regarded as faith, the origin of faith. Both sides faced each other. Everyone was looking forward to it. The flames of war soared to the sky. All beings roulette. Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha made his move without saying a word. A huge white roulette appeared in front of him. The roulette was actually made up of 8 long swords. At this time, Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha stretched out his 8 arms to dismantle the All Beings roulette and took out the 8 swords of all beings. Chapter 36:14. This battle with Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha was different from the last time he fought with the Chaos Whole Ancestor. The last time he fought with the Chaos Whole Ancestor, he was forced to fight to the death. It was a desperate fight. This time, it was almost Long Chen who personally led the battle. All the ancestor gods of the 10,000 worlds knew how powerful the ancestor god of the fourth era was, so Long Chen naturally knew it better. However, he still wanted to challenge him. Only by challenging him could he truly break through his limits. Only in the future could he truly surpass the ancestor god of the fourth era. In the starfield, Long Chen was surrounded by divine dragons. He was like the rising sun, and his aura was mysterious, bloody, ethereal, solemn, and so on. His aura was constantly changing, becoming more and more dignified, as well as the aura of a true sovereign. Of course, Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha was even more powerful. He sat cross-legged in the void, his white kasaya fluttering in the wind. His skin and flesh were as pure and flawless as white jade. His lips moved slightly as if he was chanting scriptures all the time. Behind him, countless faces appeared, representing billions of lives. Their collective will was transferred to Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha. In comparison, the power of the fourth era's ancestor god Kitagarbha was naturally stronger. After all, he had the origins of 6 worlds. As for Dragonstar, he was equivalent to 5 people with 4 world essences working together. But of course, each world essence had 4 world essences, and each of them had 4 world essences. In other words, the amount of world essence energy that an ordinary elder god would need 5 world essences to produce was equivalent to the amount of world essence energy that an ordinary elder god could produce. Now, Long Chen was very close to the 4th era's ancestor god. If that wasn't the case, the 9 4th era's ancestral gods wouldn't be so anxious. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha, get ready to stay in your world of all living for 1,000 years. 5 kinds of world origins vaguely appeared on Long Chen's body. They were not inferior to the 8 swords of all living beings in the Wheel of All Living. You're courting death. At this moment, the battle between the two broke out again. Now, every battle would determine the future of billions of lives and the fate of the 10,000 worlds. Divine light of salvation. 8 arms, 8 swords of all living beings. Now, on each of the long swords, countless sharp lights suddenly appeared. The trillions of lives behind him all fused into the 8 long swords. The instant sword shook the myriad of worlds. The pale white light engulfed the entire myriad worlds in an instant. No matter which corner of the myriad worlds they were in, all the gods and devils were enveloped in this white light for no reason. At this moment, they felt as though they had returned to their mother's wombs. The will of the common people. Gather my divine sword. Billions of common people shall judge your death. This was the faith law that could steal. With only 3 moves, common people's emperor ancestor naturally used his killing move right away. He had to kill Long Chen in the first move. The 8 divine swords carried the faith power of billions of lives. They pierced through and created a great world. These 8 swords were like heavenly pillars that descended majestically. Suppress and kill. In fact, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha's first law had already surpassed the power of the chaotic origin hand of the chaotic whole shaman ancestor. In terms of the law of faith, it had reached the peak. But even so, it could not affect Long Chen's calmness at the moment. The necklace of fate emerged from his neck. It was a mysterious chain that represented fate. It was the most illusory but also the most crucial. The fate of all living beings was born in the origin of this world. In the face of the Kitagarbha divine light, Long Chen resisted it with the power of fate. Divine will of the masses. Faith conflicted with the law of the chaotic origin heavenly dragon, especially the violent faith of sacred ancestor Kitagarbha. On the other hand, Long Chen's law of wish already included faith, which was more profound and profound. Naturally, it was more orthodox. Even faith is divided into good and evil. I am good, and you are evil. The divine will of the masses was illusory, silent, colorless, and formless, as if it did not exist at all. But this was the purest form of fate and faith. To a certain extent, in terms of laws, Long Chen could restrain the other. Disintegrate. The 8 divine swords descended. The divine will of the masses swept out like a silent wave and hit the 8 divine swords. Bas! Swoosh! At this moment, the divine swords changed. Their colors faded, and the power of faith of all living beings was swept away in an instant. They were like the most ferocious beasts that had lost their claws and fangs. In an instant, a part of the world disappeared and vanished into thin air. How is this possible? No one had expected that Long Chen could resolve sacred ancestor Kitagarbha's killing move so quickly. It seemed as if he had done it effortlessly. You! Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha, who had enough confidence in himself, was so stunned by such a sudden blow that he trembled all over. He simply couldn't understand how Long Chen had managed to neutralize his attack. Long Chen. For a moment, just the ease of resolving the attack made the crowd seethe with excitement for Long Chen. He has improved again. For a moment, the crowd was in an uproar. The faces of people like the ancestral emperor instantly darkened. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha. There are only 2 moves left. They had to remind him. Otherwise, this hard-won opportunity would be wasted again. Okay. Chapter 36:15. The Heavenly Fortune. At this moment, Long Chen faced it calmly and spread his arms. Thousands of worlds turned into luck in his eyes. Even if it was just an empty space, there was luck in it. The gathering of countless luck was the so-called heavenly fortune. and Long Chen could gather the heavenly fortune and form endless clouds in front of him. The vast clouds blocked the ultimate killing intent in the blink of an eye. In fact, the ultimate killing intent had already collapsed in the battle with the great destructive time. The most fundamental killing intent had been defeated by Long Chen. When sacred ancestor Kitagarbha's law of confidence descended in front of Long Chen, it fell into the heavenly fortune and was quickly assimilated. The last trace of its power also disappeared. It couldn't hurt Long Chen. Long Chen was still unharmed. When the heavenly fortune dissipated, Long Chen appeared in front of sacred ancestor Kitagarbha unscathed. His appearance was even more shocking. By now, everyone knew that Long Chen was actually stronger than when he fought against the chaotic whole wizard ancestor. They just didn't know if he had other tricks up his sleeves. Now, the war had reached its most thrilling moment. Because according to what everyone knew, the most heaven-defying ability of Long Chen was the great destructive time. Of course, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha only had one move left, which would determine his life and death. If Long Chen survived, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha would withdraw from the civil war. If Long Chen died, the civil war would end, but the fate of the future worlds would change. The outcome of the civil war between the ancestor gods was completely based on the life and death of Long Chen. The most exciting moment had quietly arrived. To be honest, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha had a hunch that the ultimate killing intent would not be able to kill Long Chen. Such a result would undoubtedly force him into a dead end. Haha. Instead of getting angry, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha laughed. If he didn't fight, his reputation would be ruined. I didn't want to do this, but you forced me to. I won't waste this opportunity. I'm not the chaotic whole wizard ancestor. At this moment, divine ancestor Kitagarbha did not seem to be afraid of offending the chaos whole wizard ancestor. At this moment, he had decided to use extreme measures. To him, the time had come for him to kill Long Chen regardless of the price he had to pay. Buzz! The flame of the world was burning on his body. Long Chen could see sacred ancestor Kitagarbha's fortune, and now, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha was burning his fortune. This was no different from burning his power. If he did that, he might run into bad luck in the near future, and everything would go wrong for him. However, he didn't care about that. Furthermore, if he killed Long Chen, then he wouldn't need to worry about his future. If he lost, then according to his oath, he would have to stay in the world of all living beings for 1,000 years. In that case, he wouldn't need much luck. He had bet 1,000 years of luck on Long Chen's life and death on a single rule. When all the fortune was burned and condensed into the origin power of the world, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha looked slightly different now. It was as if he had crossed a new level and reached a new level of glory. Buzz! The divine might of sacred ancestor Kitagarbha shocked the world. The bright light seemed to have suppressed Long Chen. In front of his endless divine body, Long Chen looked extremely small. You're lucky to die under my 1,000 years of luck. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha's mighty voice echoed in the infinite worlds again and again. Immediately, he made his move. A mighty divine might was unleashed from his divine body. Eternal tribulation. Eternal tribulation. 1,000 years of luck. Eternal tribulation. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha's 8 arms joined together, and the 8 divine swords also joined together and pointed at Long Chen. In an instant, all the realms seemed to come to a standstill. Countless worlds were destroyed, and countless living beings were born and destroyed. The power and killing intent generated during this process were all gathered in the killing tribulation of Kitagarbha for all eternity. This was a rule that sacred ancestor Kitagarbha had never used in battles. Even when facing Chaos Ancestral God and the others, he still kept it in reserve, just so that one day, he could use this attack to finally destroy Long Chen. Eternal tribulation. Eternal tribulation. Eternal tribulation. Ultimate nirvana. The sword was simple but deadly. Annihilation. Eternal tribulation. The sword fell from the sky and was aimed at Long Chen. It was aimed at Long Chen, and its killing intent had already locked onto Long Chen. Nirvana. Danger. A great sense of crisis swept over him. The deadly killing intent had already enveloped him and almost seeped into his body. At this moment, every particle in his body was trembling. At this moment, what sacred ancestor Kitagarbha brought was a crisis of death that exceeded the limit. It was even greater than what the chaotic cave wizard ancestor had faced, because he had one more chance than the chaotic cave wizard ancestor and was more willing to risk everything. The ancestral gods of the Fourth Era all trembled in their hearts. They could naturally feel how terrifying this attack was. If it were them, they might not be able to withstand such a killing move. Die, die, die. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha killed with a merciful face. Everything was going in a direction that was disadvantageous to Long Chen. At this moment, Long Chen's final performance had become the key. To be honest, although the ancestral gods knew that Long Chen had made progress, such an attack had once again exceeded his limit. They were very worried that this was very likely to be the end of Long Chen. Chapter 36:16. It was as if the fierce battle between the ancestral gods of the Fourth Era had ended. Long Chen was undoubtedly the winner of this battle. Of course, sacred ancestor Kitagarbha was not injured at all, let alone killed. Currently, Long Chen was far from being able to kill him. Under the witness of tens of thousands of people, the outcome of this game had been decided. Now, all the ancestral gods were amazed by Long Chen, who had constantly surpassed the limits of everyone's imagination and created new miracles several times. They all looked at Long Chen in shock. Now surrounded by nearly 100 ancestral gods of the Fourth and Fifth Eras, Long Chen was scrutinizing sacred ancestor Kitagarbha and the remaining 8 ancestral gods of the Fourth Era who opposed him. While the two sides were still confronting each other, the momentum of Long Chen's side had already far surpassed that of the other side. Perhaps from this moment on, Long Chen already had the capital to overwhelm his opponents. This capital was reflected in both his personal strength and his prestige in the myriad worlds. Once upon a time, his status in the myriad worlds was just an insignificant ancestral god of the Ninth Era. Now, he was almost standing at the peak of the myriad worlds. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha, I've successfully withstood all 3 attacks and cracked them. Not only am I not dead, but I'm also unscathed. I'm the winner of this battle. So in front of all the ancestral gods of the myriad worlds, you have to fulfill your promise and stay in the divine realm for 1,000 years. If you can't do it, I'm afraid that all the living beings in the myriad worlds, even the most humble ants, will look down on you. Long Chen said with a smile. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha was facing the gazes of all the living beings in the myriad worlds. He gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. The battle with Long Chen had deeply subverted his worldview. Everything that had happened was a huge blow to him. As a result, he didn't know what to say in the face of all the living beings and Long Chen. The faces of the other 8 ancestral gods of the Fourth Era were extremely gloomy. The chaotic whole shaman ancestor had been defeated, but he hadn't lost as badly as this time. Not only had he boosted Long Chen's prestige and made them lose face, but he had also caused them to lose one of their 9 ancestral gods. It would not be easy for sacred ancestor Kitagarbha to come out under the public opinion of the various worlds. After all, even for the ancestral god of the Fourth Era, face was very important. Me. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha's eyes were blood red. Let's go. Don't embarrass yourself here. Out of the bunch, the one in the most vicious state was common people's emperor ancestor. Although he wasn't the one who lost, he couldn't take it. His eyes were filled with killing intent. All right. The 9 of them were rather carefree as they turned around and left. After all, today was an unimaginable defeat for them. Long Chen, the Lord of Myriad Worlds. This title had returned, but this time it was shouted by the ancestral gods of the myriad worlds. The thousands of ancestral gods present were fanatically supporting Long Chen. Obviously, apart from the ancestral god of destruction in the Second Era, the chaotic whole shaman ancestor and the other 8 had become isolated. It was difficult for the ancestral gods of the myriad worlds to see hope among the 9 traitors. Now, they would rather believe that the death of demonic ancestor Qiyu had a lot to do with the 9 ancestral gods. Damn it, you've completely disgraced us this time. In the boundless starry sky, common people's emperor ancestor was furious. His domineering battle aura swept out. Even though he was trying to suppress it, it still affected the surrounding star region and caused countless broken stars to shatter. His target was sacred ancestor Kitagarbha. Sacred ancestor Kitagarbha sneered and said, "Don't be a hindsight, okay? You know what I'm capable of." It's not like I haven't fought with you before. In the end, I even sacrificed my 1,000-year fortune, but he still managed to break it. This is his strength and heaven-defying strength. It has nothing to do with me. Unconvinced, Common People's Emperor Ancestor said, "Wasn't it your idea? At least we would be fine if we stayed in the chaotic whole shaman realm. Now, the balance has completely tilted in their favor. We've lost all the ancestral gods of the Fifth Era and all the living beings of the myriad worlds. We've become traitors. There are only 9 of us left. No, you don't count anymore. There are only 8 of us left." Common People's Emperor Ancestor. What do you mean by this? Do you not like me? Don't think that I have to be afraid of you just because I've used up my 1,000-year fortune. Sacred Ancestor Kitagaba was also angry. The two of them confronted each other. That's enough. We're already at a disadvantage, so it's better for us to stop arguing. Now is the time to think of a solution. Xueqi Demon Ancestor stepped forward and said, "Long Chen is so heaven-defying, and now he has the support of all the gods, demons, and ancestral gods. What does it have to do with us? Why don't we all go back to our own worlds, face the wall for 1,000 years, and beg for Long Chen's forgiveness?" Of course, these were words spoken out of anger. Among them, Common People's Emperor Ancestor was the most indignant. Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor said, "Don't be discouraged. This is just the beginning. It's not time to determine the winner yet. Why do you have to fight among yourselves now?" Everyone looked at him. Among them, Divine Ancestor Kitagaba said angrily, "How dare you speak? Your brilliant plan is to keep us in the chaotic whole shaman realm and make us protect you. It's a good idea, but you've wasted all our time." Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor. You killed his elders and 8 of them. Among us, Long Chen won't let you off the most. We can lose, but you can't. Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor didn't feel any pressure at all. He smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. We are the creator ancestral gods. He can't kill us. At most, he can just seal us up. It's just a matter of taking a nap." Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor's indifferent attitude made the ancestral gods look at him in disbelief. They had a feeling that the Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor was not such a person. "Also, you've underestimated me. I do have a brilliant plan, and it's a brilliant plan. It's just that I'm still in the process of making the tools. Once I succeed, with your help, Long Chen will definitely die." Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor said confidently. This made everyone speechless. Common People's Emperor Ancestor still didn't believe him. He sneered and said, "All right, you can continue to bluff. I'm going back to my Common People's Imperial domain." After saying that, he couldn't be bothered to say more. He turned around and left the team. To be honest, today's situation really made him feel wronged. He wanted to kill Long Chen, but he felt that these people had considered too much and were too conflicted. Therefore, he hadn't succeeded. He preferred to cut the Gordian knot with a sharp knife. Common People's Emperor Ancestor left, but the others didn't. Xueqi Demon Ancestor said, "Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor, tell us the details so that we can be prepared. That way, we can trust you more and do our best." Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor carefully refused. "Everyone, you must believe me. Once I tell you, this method will lose its effect." Chaotic Whole Shaman Ancestor was very insistent. No matter how many times they emphasized it, he still wouldn't say it. "I can only return to the God realm for all beings first. The rest is up to you." Sacred Ancestor Kitagaba was also very regretful that he had lost today. Of course, he also knew that he was the most unsuitable person to fight today, because he could vaguely feel that Long Chen's rules were restraining him. If it weren't for the restraining rules, even if he didn't die, it wouldn't have been so easy. The undercurrents of the myriad worlds surged and became even more majestic. The ancestral gods of the myriad worlds gradually dispersed. The 10 ancestral gods of the Fourth Era were all smiling and congratulating Long Chen for turning the tide and getting through this crisis. They also had nothing to do, so they began to repair the destroyed array for Long Chen. "Today, I gained a lot from the battle with Sacred Ancestor Kitagaba. If I didn't happen to restrain him, fighting with the ancestral god of the Fourth Era would still be extremely dangerous. I'm afraid I'll have to reach the ancestral god realm of the Fifth Era to be able to truly contend with him. Therefore, Long Chen was very clear that the most important thing for him to do in the future was to reach the ancestral god realm of the fifth era first. As for the origin of the 5 worlds, he wasn't sure yet. It might not necessarily be because of killing. It might be because of time. Now that the dragon servants are gone, I just don't know where I can find the rest of the ancestral dragon's inheritance. This was Long Chen's current dilemma. Just as he was meditating, suddenly, an unexpected person was using his divine will to communicate with Long Chen across countless distances and spaces. Long Chen, I'm the Xueqi demon ancestor. The mountain Xueqi beast of the demon clan. He was the host of a ranking battle of the ancestral gods. However, after the battle, he was tempted by the black hole witch ancestor and the others and joined their team. Since then, he had never returned. Among the enemies, the Xueqi demon ancestor was probably the one that Long Chen didn't dislike the least. Chapter 36:17. They were enemies, yet they came to look for him. It was indeed a little strange. The Xueqi forefather went straight to the point and said, after some contemplation and familiarization, coupled with the stimulation of today's matter, I feel that the choice I made before was a wrong one. At this point, Long Chen had a rough idea of his intentions today. Please continue. Long Chen did not reject it. Demon forefather Xueqi said, I can only blame myself for not knowing much about you and being bewitched by them. That's why I had some misunderstandings about you. Personally, my biggest doubt was that I still felt that it was better for one person to rule over the myriad worlds than the Ancestor God Alliance to rule over the myriad worlds together. I always felt that it was more fair and just, which was why I chose to join the Ancestor God Alliance. Your thoughts are understandable. After all, you don't know much about me. Long Chen nodded. Demon forefather Xueqi continued. In the beginning, I joined them because I supported the Ancestor God Alliance. But as things developed, I realized that the actual situation was different from what I imagined. I seem to have taken the wrong path. Today, I finally understand the crux of the matter. Long Chen did not interrupt him. Xueqi demon forefather laughed bitterly and said, Actually, this isn't a matter of choosing the Ancestral God Alliance or choosing you to rule over the myriad worlds. I chose them, not the Ancestral God Alliance, but the Strangler. Actually, from your point of view, I've realized that you really have no interest in ruling over the myriad worlds. You've also vowed to only pay attention to the dragon's sacrificial continent. This is already very clear. I was worried about you ruling over the myriad worlds. But as I gradually understood your personality, I realized that my worries were unnecessary. The primal chaos ancestor god and the others thought more clearly than I did. Your existence is the symbol of the revival of the myriad worlds. If I were to kill you just to choose the Ancestor God Alliance, I would be neglecting the essentials. If I were to do that, I wouldn't be doing it for the myriad worlds. I would be doing it for myself. Just like how the Emperor Ancestor and the others opposed your dominance, they were actually doing it for themselves. Finally, today I have my answer. This is because I can see that all the elder gods and all the living beings, with the exception of the 9 of us, are basically standing by your side. This means that you are the one who truly holds the hearts of the masses. The Ancestor God Alliance has no conflict with you, as it stands behind you. As for the rest of us, we are not members of the Ancestor God Alliance. Therefore, there was no conflict between choosing the Ancestor God Alliance and choosing you. However, I chose to be a traitor. Today, I apologize to you, and I want to express to you that in the future, I will stand by your side and unwaveringly support you. In the end, he clearly expressed his intentions. He didn't want to stay there anymore. This was a wise decision, and it also made Long Chen smile. Of course, it was better to be on guard against others. Who knew if he was faking it, or if he was actually thinking of ways to get close to Long Chen and kill Long Chen? When Long Chen thought of this, the other party naturally guessed it as well. Of course, I can't directly come to your side now, and I'm afraid you won't completely trust me either. After all, I've made a mistake. This is what I think. It's enough that you know my intentions. I will still mingle among them and be a so-called spy. If they make any moves, I will definitely inform you in advance. If they have any ideas, I will also communicate with you. If there's a huge battle royale again, I will not interfere much, and I might even switch sides at the last moment to reduce the pressure on you guys. This way, You just need to remember that your side has 11 fourth-era ancestor gods, while the other side only has 7. He made a decision for Long Chen that wouldn't put him in a dilemma at all. Long Chen said, "Demon ancestor Xueqi, it's not difficult or strange to make a new decision. I choose to believe you. I may need your help on the other side." Having a spy on the other side was a great help to Long Chen. Of course, after all, he couldn't fully trust him. He might need to see the real situation before he could make a judgment. "Thank you. I'll tell you what they've been thinking about for the past few months." Demon ancestor Xueqi was naturally excited to be trusted. He basically told him everything that needed to be said, including their internal quarrel after the battle today, and every detail of the Great Hole Ancestor's words. This Great Hole Ancestor might have expected that one of us would switch sides, so he refused to say anything. Of course, he could also be deliberately mystifying us. You need to judge for yourself. However, I still suggest that you be careful. Of course, once I know the situation, I will tell you. Great Hole Ancestor. Long Chen thought of his unusual behavior these days. It was really possible that he was plotting a huge conspiracy, a conspiracy that could definitely kill Long Chen. Thinking back to his gloomy and cold expression these past few days, Long Chen felt a chill run down his spine. I understand. It was impossible for Long Chen to forget this hatred. He still firmly remembered it. He was always waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the day when he surpassed the Black Hole Wizard ancestor. This hatred of life and death must be ruthlessly repaid. Okay, let's not talk about it now. Demon ancestor Xueqi's voice faded. After that, Long Chen told the other 10 ancestral gods about Xueqi demon forefather's situation. Destiny Star Ancestor said, "I know a little about demon ancestor Xueqi. In fact, he's not bad. I always felt that he made the wrong choice. Now that he has turned over a new leaf, it should be normal." Chaos Ancestor God said, "He chose to be our spy, which is of great help to us and won't pose a threat to us. The key is that the Great Hole Ancestor is preparing a big conspiracy. He has to be so mysterious. This was not something that could be guessed. There don't seem to be many people left in the Great Hole realm now. We should go directly and kill them. After all, Sacred Ancestor Kitagarbha can't leave the realm of all beings," Demon Ancestor Sixpath suggested. The situation was too good. As long as they didn't take the initiative, they would be passive later. Long Chen said, "This is not the best time. Think about it carefully. Given their personalities, if they are forced into a corner, they will probably attack all beings in the Great Hole realm. The casualties will be too heavy for them to bear. I think the only way for the time being is to monitor each and every one of them. Of course, we have to secretly monitor them. Otherwise, we can send 7 of them to monitor them first." To monitor the ancestral gods of the 4th era, they had to be the ancestral gods of the 4th era. Among them, 3 ancestral gods of the 4th era were left behind to build the formation on the dragon sacrificial continent. The other 7 went out to keep watch. Most of them were hiding around the chaotic Hole Shaman realm. 1 ancestral soul went to keep an eye on the mortal people's ancestor emperor, while the other primordial war ancestor went to keep an eye on divine ancestor Kitagarbha. Only by knowing their positions and movements could Long Chen feel more at ease. However, he found that after the battle that day, the ancestral gods basically stayed in 3 places: the Great Hole realm, the common people's imperial domain, and the realm of all beings. Half a month passed, but there was no movement. Xueqi demon forefather was also in the realm of all beings. Any news? The Great Hole Wizard ancestor has locked himself up at all times. I have no idea what he is doing, Xueqi demon forefather replied. The key point was still the Black Hole Wizard ancestor's scheme. As time passed, Long Chen indeed smelled a kind of danger. He was considering whether he should attack first. In the end he gave up. After all, they were all in the Great Hole realm. Once they attacked, it would definitely affect this world. He couldn't afford to suffer such heavy casualties. Inside the Great Hole realm, dark gray clouds filled the entire field of vision. The Great Hole Wizard ancestor had turned into a cloud and floated in the gray clouds. In front of him, there were also 8 gray clouds that were changing shapes. Vaguely, he could see that there were 3 women and 5 men. They were the Origin Dragon servants. The Great Hole Wizard ancestor laughed. Soon, 8 soul-devouring beasts will be born soon. Familiar people, respected elders, soul-devouring beasts. Hurry up and be born. Go plunder his ancestral soul and eat it clean. Chapter 36:18. Long Chen understood that what he needed to do the most now was to break through to the fifth era's ancestral god realm. This required him to spend a large amount of time cultivating on the fourth floor of the Pagoda of Time. As for those fourth era's ancestral gods who opposed him, they were now under the surveillance of the seven fourth era's ancestral gods. The fourth era's ancestral gods' destructive power was too strong. If they didn't stop him, just one of them would be enough to wipe out the entire world. Long Chen could not help much now, so he naturally placed his hopes on the 10 fourth era's primordial ancestor gods to protect the stability of the myriad worlds. He and Lingxi were both working hard. When Long Chen was trying to break through to the fifth era's ancestral god realm, Lingxi was already trying to break through to the fourth era's ancestral god realm. After she succeeded and stabilized her foundation, her strength would surpass many fourth era's ancestral gods. The reason why she was always faster than Long Chen was because she only had 2 world origin sources, while Long Chen already had 5. Of course, Long Chen was still much stronger than her. Kitten was the same as Long Chen, also trying to break through to the fifth era's ancestral god realm. He was the destruction ancestral god. At this time, he was still determined to be the strongest destruction ancestral god, just like before the first era. When I recover to the fourth era's ancestral god realm, I will be at the peak of the supreme ancient boundless world purifying immortal ancestor and god curse ancestor. There won't be any more improvements in the future. Luckily, at this level, I can really help you. Lingxi was always by his side. Her white dress fluttered in the wind. Your future will at least surpass many fourth era's ancestral god realm. After all, she had 2 inheritances, and neither was weak. When I reach that level, I will go and protect the supreme ancient immortal realms and ancestral planet. Right now, I can't protect these 2 worlds. The supreme ancient immortal realms and ancestral planet had been forgotten because they didn't have a creator god. Naturally, Long Chen would go there sometimes. It was peaceful there. Not many elder gods would care about a world without a creator elder god. Even if they did, they knew that it was Long Chen's territory. I didn't expect that after so many years, you would also become a world lord, and a world lord of 2 fourth-era primordial ancestor god worlds. Long Chen was rather emotional. In reality, Lingxi had always been working hard, and her level was no less than his. You've worked hard and fought for so many years, and now, you've finally arrived at the final moment. I believe that you'll definitely succeed. Now, all that's left is for you to surpass the origin ancestral god of the fourth era. It wasn't just Lingxi who was looking forward to it. All the fiend gods in the infinite worlds were looking forward to it. They were looking forward to the moment when Long Chen unified the infinite worlds and subjugated all the elder gods. Of course, this process was not easy. Common People's Emperor Region. A vast world floated in the starry sky. It was an origin-grade world. Billions of creatures lived and multiplied in the complex, primitive formation. The Common People's God race was a huge race in the infinite worlds. They were on the same level as the Chaos God race, Primordial God race, Creation God race, All-Life God race, etc. The surrounding worlds were all impressed by the Common People's God race's strength. Of course, the key was that the ancestor god of the Common People's God race was the ancestor god of the fourth era. He was one of the rulers of the infinite worlds. Now word spread that Long Chen's strength had soared and he was about to surpass the ancestor god of the fourth era. Coward as expected, you don't have the guts to fight me head-on. The ancestor Common People's Emperor's voice reverberated throughout the 10,000 worlds. The ancestor original soul was too lazy to care about him. Who knew that the ancestor Common People's Emperor would still chase? As he chased, he attacked. The surrounding space, broken stars, etc. were all destroyed. Who told you to monitor me? Trash. He even took out the source of the world. The source of the world was called the Common People's Emperor Pagoda. This was a golden pagoda, and it was this pagoda that gave birth to the Common People's Emperor region and the ancestor Common People's Emperor. The Mortal People's Emperor's pagoda looked like it had more than 100,000 levels, and each level was dazzling with gold and jade. Within each level, there was a power that could evolve into a power body. Scram. With a maniacal attack, the Ancestor Common People's Emperor region wiped out 1 billion miles of the galaxy outside of the Common People's Emperor region. Many gods and spirits were injured or killed, and many of them were from his Common People's god race. However, during this period of time, the Ancestor Common People's Emperor was just too violent. During this period of time, he mentioned holding Ancestor God Pangu hostage several times. Anyway, they had no prestige in the 10,000 worlds, so why not just do it a few more times to wipe out Long Chen? Hong hong hong. From the perspective of the Common People's Emperor region, it seemed like the sky had cracked and a giant crack had appeared. Most of the stars in the sky were swallowed by this crack. The Ancestor Common People's Emperor is showing off. Too terrifying. The Ancestor Common People's Emperor is invincible in 10,000 worlds. Numerous Common People's God race members knelt on the ground. The Ancestor Original Soul stood on the other side of the crack and felt really helpless. Scram as far as you can. The Ancestor Common People's Emperor's angry voice spread over from the other side. A moment later, he couldn't find the Ancestor Original Soul, so he went back while cursing. The Ancestor Original Soul talked to the Primal Chaos Ancestor God and the others about what happened here. This Ancestor Common People's Emperor has the most explosive temper out of all of them. I think we should let the Ancestor God creation go over and all of you look after him. Only then can we calm him down. Okay. After seeing how explosive the Ancestor Common People's Emperor was, the Ancestor Original Soul felt that it should be the case. After the surroundings calmed down, the Ancestor Original Soul returned to the area around the Common People's Emperor region to hide himself. If the Ancestor Common People's Emperor found him, then he would just have to avoid him. Anyways, the Ancestor God creation was about to arrive. The Common People's Emperor region was covered by the formation, and it was really silent. Just at this moment, the Ancestor Original Soul felt a little weird. Before this, he was in the Common People's Emperor region and didn't hide it, so I knew of his existence. But it seems like he has been moving around within the Common People's Emperor region. It is obvious that he isn't someone who can stay still. But now, he has stopped at one spot and doesn't move at all. Moreover, his aura is a little off, like a smokescreen. This meant that there was a high chance that the feeling that the Ancestor Original Soul felt within the Common People's Emperor region was fake. There was a high chance that the Ancestor Common People's Emperor wasn't here anymore. I fell for a trap. Maybe he noticed me long ago. When he appeared just now, he knew that I wouldn't attack him, so he chased me away. When I returned, he used a smokescreen to trick me. In truth, he had already left the Common People's Emperor region. Something happened. The Ancestor Original Soul hurriedly informed all the Ancestor Gods about what happened here. When the Ancestor Gods of the myriad of worlds returned, he had a new goal. I heard from Long Chen that Lady Lingxi would soon recover to the 4th era's origin Ancestor God realm. At that time, she would become the Ancestor God of our supreme ancient immortal realms. Luckily, it's Lady Lingxi. She is so kind and brave. She will definitely bring eternal peace to our supreme ancient immortal realms. During this period of time, the myriad of worlds are simply too chaotic. Luckily, no one in the supreme ancient immortal realms paid attention to us. It's very peaceful here. Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon was naturally very satisfied with such a situation. At this moment, Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon suddenly felt a sense of pressure. What's going on? It's like the entire supreme ancient immortal realms is being controlled and suppressed. Why is there such a strange feeling? Do you guys feel it? Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon asked his disciples at the Divine Emperor realm. Replying to Master, we feel uncomfortable as well. This is strange. You guys stay here. I'll go out and take a look. He soared up into the air, leaving this layer of heavenly layers. He flew out of the supreme ancient immortal realms and came to the starry space outside. Below him was a world filled with boundless immortal fog. There's nothing at all. This doesn't make sense. Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon was puzzled. At this moment, he felt something behind him. When he turned his head, he was instantly stunned. In the starry space behind him, there were millions and millions of golden particles. These particles were currently radiating resplendent light, easily blinding Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon's eyes. At the final moment, Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon saw the millions and millions of golden particles gathering together, condensing into a golden human. "Who are you?" Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon was badly shocked. At the same time, he used his fastest speed to inform Long Chen. "Long Chen, quickly save the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, save me." This was already enough. Because his tone was filled with urgency. When his vision turned blurry, a golden-skinned ancestor god appeared before him. The ancestor had a baleful look on his face. This was none other than the Mortal Life Emperor ancestor. Hindrance. He merely shot a glance at Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon. In an instant, Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon's body was engulfed by the golden light. In an instant, he turned into ashes. Even his soul shattered, scattering into the surroundings. Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon was instantly annihilated. This world should be the world of that woman Long Chen, right? Hee, seems like it's similar to my Mortal Life Emperor region. The eyes of the Mortal Life Emperor ancestor were filled with jealousy and hatred. He knew that Heavenly Essence Immortal Paragon would definitely tell the news of his appearance to Long Chen. After that, those ancestor gods would arrive soon. Hence, he didn't have much time. Mortal Life Emperor's Pagoda. The Mortal Life Emperor's Pagoda appeared in his hand, shining with golden light. Expand. Under the control of the Mortal Emperor ancestor, the Mortal Emperor Pagoda expanded endlessly. In a short instant, it already surpassed the size of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. However, it didn't stop there. The area of the Mortal Emperor Pagoda was several times the size of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. In the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, in the 33 heavenly layers and 33 worlds, countless people inclined their heads. The sky above them had already turned completely golden, as though there were many suns in the sky. What is this? Why did the sky suddenly turn golden? People didn't know that the apocalypse had arrived. All the bewilderment only lasted for an instant. At that instant, maybe not many people felt fear. They were only curious. In fact, there were even some families that stood out to admire the view. At this moment, there were people rising up within their clans, causing people to have a whole new level of respect for them. Some people just joined a sect and obtained some precious inheritances. They were now working hard to become stronger. Some people just found love. Some people had many children and grandchildren. There were hundreds of trillions of lives, countless gods and devils. But at this moment, the mortal people's Emperor's Pagoda pressed down with an unprecedented speed. It was like a steel hammer smashing down on a bubble. In an instant, the 33 layers of heaven shattered, turned into dust, exploded, and rumbled. Boom! The 33 heavenly layers of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms directly exploded. Break! Haha! The excited laughter of the Mortal Life Emperor ancestor reverberated through the air. Under the suppression of his laughter, the destruction of the entire world, the deaths of trillions of lives, seemed to be silent. The vitality of the ancestor god was simply too high. To humans, a single stomp from them could trample countless tiny life forms to death. The disparity between them and the ancestor god was roughly the same. Although they were all sentient life forms. The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was destroyed. The entire world was plunged into chaos. The mist didn't dissipate but formed into a gigantic sphere that floated in the air. However, the once beautiful Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, from now on, no matter what, had completely disappeared. Long Chen, quickly come over and take a look. This is a gift from me, the Mortal Life Emperor ancestor. Sadly, you still have no way to deal with me. Because I'm the creator ancestor. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.